Sounds good. There we go. Green. All right. So this is going to be starting here with marketing funnel training, and then we're going to get into some strategy training. All right. So coming back to where we just started, I just told Sophie that this is going to marketing funnel. Everything in marketing is essentially a funnel, no matter how they pitch it, whether it's a flywheel or whatever they want to call it. And secondly, there is a strategy, a deeper level strategy that not only applies to a marketing funnel, but can also apply to your life. So, if we're bringing users through this funnel and into a desired action, you can create this instead of creating it for other people. You can create this for yourself, and we'll kind of be going over some ways that can look, and you'll start to see kind of an underlying theme as we look at different images. But we'll start with marketing. So in marketing, it's a funnel. And why is it a funnel? Because at the beginning, we have a lot of people who we might connect with, who we might meet. But at the bottom, we have a very few number of people who actually take action. And for example, and this is biblical marketing, Sophie. So if you look at the Bible, the number of people Jesus interacts with is quite large, but the number of people who ultimately follow him is quite small. For example, the rich young ruler, he's like, you know what? I don't really want all that. I'm going to keep my money and I'm out of here. A lot of the lepers that he heals, they don't come back to him and do what he says, whatever, it says, what do you say? Go to the temple and then come back to me. And they didn't do that. Only one did. So 1 out of the 10 in that scenario. So to that end, not everybody Jesus comes into contact with is going to take the desired action. Okay. And that's fine. And so this leads us firstly to a way of thinking about life and about business, and something that Sophie will talk a lot about are mental models. And this goes beyond marketing. If you know them, it will make you a very good marketer, but if it's also just generally good for life. And they are a mental model is a map in your mind of how reality works. And if you understand correctly how reality works, because God created a world that is orderly and you have properly identified the order, you will be able to get better results. And if you have bad mental models, like, for example, let's just say psychologically, I'm just making something up here, Sophie. I was reading psychology earlier. Let's say some guy has the belief that all women are liars. Well, that is obviously untrue. There are some people, some women, just like some people, lie a lot and some do not. And if you believe that all women are liars, that is a bad mental model to operate your life off of, because you are never going to trust a woman, and that is going to work counter to any meaningful relationship. So that would be a bad mental model. So the question is, what are correct mental models that accurately reflect how people work and how the world works, and how do we use those? So the marketing funnel starts here giving us one really good mental model, and what I call it the odds game mentality. Okay. And that is, life is just an odds game, and all you've got to do is play the right odds enough times to win. Okay. And here's what I mean. In the connect phase of the marketing funnel, and the connect phase is where we meet someone, it's a handshake. Okay. If we have to meet, let's say 1,000 people, and then, okay, so we're connecting with them, we connect with them, we meet 1,000 people, and then conversion, the convert phase, is when we ask for contact information, usually name, email, phone number, and we do that on the website on ClickMill. We do that at the bottom of the website, down, at the bottom where it's like download your ebook or get your free Google Ads account or schedule a strategy session. In your case with interns, it's apply today, right? Apply now. So a conversion is when we get them from being passive viewers, not doing anything, not committing, to active participants. Okay. And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of messaging you've got to give them. But let's say here, your conversion rate from the 1,000 visitors to actual people who've given you information, let's say that is 5%, which would be pretty good. 3% is good. 5% would be good. That would be an acceptable place. 7 would be really good. 10 would be crazy. And 15% would be what marketers call a unicorn. It just really doesn't happen unless you've got some kind of crazy good deal. You're giving away free stuff or something. So let's say we get the 1,000 people to convert and give us contact information at 5%. You've got 50 people. Pretty sure that math is right. 10%. Yeah. Oh, no. 50, 1,000, 10, 100. Yes, that'd be 50 people. 50 people give you contact information. So now we're going to follow up and start building relationships with 50 people. Okay. So for example, let's say we've contacted 1,000 people for internships, which we have not. But let's say 1,000 people are contacted or connected with, they saw the page on the website, whatever it is, and 50 people converted. They said they applied. Okay, that's a conversion. And then we followed up with all 50. Let's say we scheduled that interview and we're talking with them, and some of them don't work because, you know, they're not Christian, and this is obviously a Christian internship, or, you know, whatever it is. Maybe they're just not interested, or they go, oh, it's 20 hours a week. Well, I wanted to do 30 minutes a week. You know, it's just, so whatever it is, a lot of these people are going to fall out. And the sales rate or the close rate, okay, so marketing is the top two, leading into the bottom one. We're building this relationship. This is the relationship building phase, and it leads into the action. And the action, this is sales. This is when we say, buy today, sign up, commit now. And so the sales rate from the close, the relationship, this is called lead nurturing. That's the technical term. So in the bottom, we're nurturing the lead. We're working the lead to a point where they're comfortable closing. And then we come down here and we go into sales and we say, you should buy right now. And they either say yes or no. And the sales rate is, and we're going to look at another chart where you see this, the sales rate is usually, we'll just say, well, I guess that is very dependent on industry. We'll call it, say, 30%. We'll say 30%. So of the 50, we get 30%. And so we'll just call that, I don't know, 20. Okay. So of 1,000 people who connect with us and shake hands online or even in person, only 5% of those 1,000 are going to sign up and get more information. And only of those 50, let's say 20% are going to actually close and take the action. And that is, let's say, 20. And usually close rates are much smaller. But to that end, 20 is the result. And we talked about results in our first call, which is our goal in marketing. If you're not getting results, I don't know what we're doing, but it's not marketing. Or it's not good marketing. But we got 20 out of 1,000. And so that is the odds game. So if we want more results from our marketing funnel, we have to either make the funnel more effective or just dump more people on the top. Let's say I want 50. Well, if we have 1,000 impressions and let's say all of these numbers are good that I was talking about, and we have 20 results and I want 50, I know 1,000 gets me 20, 2,000 gets me 40, 2,500 gets me 50. So now I just need to figure out how to put this funnel in front of 2,500 people and I'll have 50 results. And that's the odds game. So that is a 99% failure rate, and it's still a very good marketing funnel. And that's also the case. That's a mental model. How many times do I need to fail to get it correct? This extends to a lot of areas of life outside of marketing, especially useful in marketing, but also I'm trying to give you, Sophie, and anyone else watching this, the additional value, some connections you might not make if we were just talking about marketing. Because I want you to be not just effective in marketing, I want you to be insanely effective at life. So when you're done with the internship and you go, whatever you do, you can succeed because the models you have about the world work, and you can go and implement them and be successful in whatever you do. So, and glorify God, obviously. But to that end, with the odds game, for example, someone who thinks like an employee, Sophie, who has a job, typically people who are employees like safety and they like security, and we want to know everything's going to work out in advance. An employee would look at the statistic: 9 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 5 years, and that is a statistic. Startup businesses fail at a 90% rate in 5 years. Would that, Sophie, let me ask you, would that be a safe and secure investment strategy or business startup strategy, or would that be a very risky and ridiculous plan based on those numbers?
No, that's very risky.
Yes, that would be very, and that's the way most people see it, right? Because I got one shot and I got 90% odds of failing. That's crazy. What an entrepreneur would do, someone who is thinking the way I'm teaching you, is it's an odds game. And my odds of failure are 90% each, or one success in 10. And they would just look at the upside and say, if I try to start a marketing firm and I fail 9 out of 10 times, is the upside worth failing 10 times or failing 9 times and succeeding 1? And if the answer is yes, they would just say, I'm just willing to fail 10 times to get the one success. And that's how they do it, you know, and that is called the law of attrition. It is just failing and figuring out what doesn't work, just like riding a bike. That's how kids learn too, right? We all learn this way. Somehow when we grow up and we become adults, we think that failure is no longer an option. Failure is the best option. Very successful people say, I wished I had failed more and I had failed faster. So to that end, if you want to start a successful business, it's just an odds game. Just figure out what the odds are and ask yourself, is it worth failing that many times to get that result? And if the answer is yes, then get on with failing, right? And that's why when we had our first meeting, failure is one of the most important elements of getting results. You can't learn how to get results unless you fail, because everything is just an odds game, and you just have to figure out either how to increase the odds of success or fail quickly enough to get through those odds to get the success. Okay? That is a mental model that encompasses life, but it definitely encompasses marketing. And you'll notice at some point, if you're ever talking with clients or you join sales calls or client calls, they do not understand this. They think that when you put a marketing system into place, it's just supposed to work from the very beginning. And you have to explain to them that's magical thinking. That's ridiculous. It's like, you know, for example, the best investors in the world right now are happy with a 5% return, and in the stock market. And over 150 years in the stock market in the United States, a 10% return is really good in, say, an index called like the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies in the United States. So if over 150 years you can average 10% a year, they're asking us for 10 times return, which is like 100 times that. That's crazy. They have no idea what they're asking for. And so the reason why we're going over these is to establish what is normal and acceptable in real life, because a lot of times clients are asking for things that are magical, that aren't actually real. So when we can understand what's real, we can make realistic goals and projections, and we can outperform just about everybody. But we can also help to ground clients in what reality is, because we'll say, hey, we're giving you a 300% return on your money, right? Which is 30 times better than the stock market average on 150 years. We're giving you 30 times better than the stock market. They don't know that. But we're giving you a 300% return on your ad spend. And they'll go, well, I don't really like that. I need an 800% return. And then we can kind of have some kind of understanding that that is baseless. Based on what? Where are you getting these numbers? Well, I don't know. I just really feel like that's good. Well, that's not a way to do business. That's not a way to do marketing. So anyway, everything is an odds game, and we want to increase the likelihood that we can get those desired results. And also, Sophie, as we continue, this is worldly knowledge, right? Marketing is worldly knowledge. A lot of ministry leaders really struggle with it because it's not spiritual enough, and it's not miraculous enough, and it's not supernatural enough. What a lot of ministry leaders, well-intentioned ministry leaders, want is they want God to show up in some miraculous fashion and bestow them with the wand of truth and miracles and miraculously happen growth, and I'm not trying to be rude. That is really the mental model that they work from. And does the Bible talk about the miraculous? Absolutely. I think God can bless, and I think God provides the growth. God gives us the minds that we can use to put strategy into place, and God blesses some strategies and he doesn't bless others. So there's definitely a miraculous element. However, what the Bible says is that we are in the world and not of the world. And to that effect, ministry leaders read the Bible and they don't hear the first part, we're in the world. All they hear is we're not of the world. And that is where all of the miraculous thinking comes in. I'm not of the world. So God is going to, I'm going to walk on water in every situation. I'm going to walk through the fire in every situation. And all I have to do is just have faith. And, that is in there. But it also says we are in the world. I live in the world. And the world has worldly knowledge that not only the world uses, but I need to be aware of. An example of this in real life is with apologetics. If I want to talk to an atheist about Jesus, can I just say Jesus loves you and you should accept Jesus because he died for your sins? I can absolutely say that, and that will be effective some amount of the time. But if I actually know atheism inside and out, I can ask them a lot of very difficult questions that they don't know how to answer. And when they go, well, I don't really understand, I don't know the answer to that, what do you think? I can then come in and offer a solution to the issue that involves accepting Christ, and they will be more receptive because I have understood the worldly knowledge. So worldly knowledge has value to an extent, and then obviously God provides growth beyond that. So to that end, this is worldly knowledge, and it does not come at the exclusion of God, but we are in the world, so we need to know how the world functions so we can function in it. And we also have to recognize we are not of the world, we're of God. So that is the first distinction here in marketing, because we're going to study a lot of worldly strategy. Second thing is the Bible says we have to be shrewd as serpents and innocent as doves. And pastors skip the whole shrewd thing. That's like, I don't know if you've ever heard a sermon on the shrewdness of serpents, right? But we're all innocent of doves and blameless and free in Jesus and, glowing auras of light and, like all this stuff. We're pure in Christ, and all that's super true. But we skip the shrewd as serpents part. We need to understand how the ways of the world, whether it's just a neutral way of thinking, like this stuff, marketing, this isn't good or evil. We need to understand how, the corruption of the world functions. Atheism is a corrupt way of thinking. It is anti-God. It is against God. And so we need to understand how that works too, and be shrewd so that we can not be blind to how the enemy functions, and we can actually use that understanding to promote the kingdom. And we don't learn that. So to that end, what we're learning is worldly knowledge, but that has a very important place given that we live in the world, and we need to be shrewd and understanding of how the world works so that we can promote the kingdom of God inside of it. Any questions on that?
I would just have one question
Okay.
about, you're talking about how a lot of maybe your clients don't have the right expectation, that like what you're saying, that they expect that
Right.
because it's not a normal thing. Like, I love what you said, like failure is the best option. Like
Right.
even for me, that is totally
Yes.
like rewiring my thinking. Because I've always been an employee, so I always have that mindset within me that failure is the worst option. But how do they react to that, and how do you kind of overcome
It's a
those
great
obstacles?
question. We'll work on that more. Let me think about how I want to approach that. Okay. So there are sort of two mentalities, and you're going to get the opposite of probably what you're used to, and that's the case with most of the interns. This is a marketing program that is really a discipleship program, right? That's what an internship is. It's a discipleship. So the goal is to better your faith, but it's also to better how you think about Christianity and about the world, so you can be more effective for Christ. And then we give you marketing right on top of it and integrate it right into the whole thing, so that you can go out and you can even more effectively promote your faith and do these things. But to that end, to your question, you have to, so if we base everything in the Bible, which is our goal, everything I teach should be grounded in scripture, and I try to ground everything in scripture, as you just saw, right? Like, it's an odds game. Bringing people to Christ is an odds game. You're never going to not fail. There's always going to be people that reject you when you share the gospel message. So how about we quit being nervous about it and we just get rejected until we find the people that want to accept, right? And maybe make it more effective who we're talking to. So more of the total people accept a higher percentage, but we're still going to fail. So to that end, if it's grounded in scripture, then we can, from the scripture, because we know our audience, because we're marketers, are pastors and Christian leaders. So if I can take a concept from the Bible and say, it's like this, and they go, oh, I never thought about it like that, but look, it's in the Bible. They trust the Bible. They don't trust me. So if I can point to a passage in scripture and say, here's why you need to do it this way, they'll just say, okay. Right. So a lot of times I have to put technical, like the stuff I'm teaching you in marketing, I have to put it into Christianese, and we're going to do that in this call. So you can kind of see what that looks like. Okay. I'm giving you kind of the technical overview. The other thing is a term called contrarianism. Have you ever heard of contrarianism? Okay.
No.
So it just built off the word contrary, which means, in opposition to. Okay. And a contrarian, right? And this is more of a philosophical concept. A contrarian is a person who acts contrary to the herd. And this is very common amongst entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs are crazy people who would take a 90% chance of failure, and nobody really gets why. Well, because they just know if they do 10 failures, well, they're going to be that guy who's, got whatever it is that he gets, right? And everybody looks at him and they go, he's lucky. No, he just failed 10 times, and you don't see the 10 failures. You just see the one success. That is a contrarian move. Okay. It's very strategic, and it's very opposite to the norm, because the normal person, the typical person, and there's nothing wrong with it, just the results are correlated to the type of thinking. The typical person wants safety and security, and they want to know that what they do is going to work. And pastors fit that mold 100%. And so, for example, something that is very normal for pastors is to think that social media marketing is the greatest. You have to be on Facebook. You have to be on Instagram. You have to have beautiful pictures. And if you get so many likes on Facebook and Instagram and whatever, or even on YouTube, I don't know, something magical happens and you've made it. And that would be normal. Pastors are so stoked about that stuff. Is that true? No, because all of those pastors are the pastors who do not have whatever it is that they're looking for, right? They're looking to reach a larger audience. They're looking to have a bigger impact, to have a bigger following, to reach more people, whatever it is. They're not successfully doing it. And they're, as a group, going after the social media route, because as a group, they believe that is how you do it effectively. And yet they're not doing it effectively. So to that end, this brings us, so a contrarian, right, would look and say, oh, look, that whole crowd of people is over there jumping into the water. Should I jump into the water, right? Because people, the herd mentality, everybody just follows each other, right? Once one person just runs and jumps into the water and says, oh, it's over here, everybody starts jumping into the water, and then everybody's drowning. Okay. And that is what a herd does. That is also very biblical, because we're referred to as sheep in the Bible. And sheep are really dumb. And one sheep will walk right off the edge of a cliff, and they will all follow him right over, right? And they will all die. That is actually a thing that sheep do. And so to that end, the question that we have to ask ourselves, if we're considering as a contrarian, is, is what the herd is doing, is that the right thing to do? And the answer is almost always no, right? The book over here, the orange one up here, The 4-Hour Work Week, also an entrepreneur, he says everything popular is wrong. And the logic is very solid as to why. And I'll give you another mental model to explain it. Okay, so there's a rule called the 80-20 principle. Have you ever heard of that? The Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule?
You went over it a little bit briefly in our
Right.
first meeting.
So we'll talk about it. So 80% of your results, of your good outcomes, come from 20% of the things you are doing. So if you were to look at the vision for your life, and you heard me talking a little bit about this with Michael, if you look at the vision for your life and you say, let's just keep it really easy and just say financial vision. And your financial vision is to have this much in the bank account as emergency, and this much over here, you know, and you want to make this amount of income. Okay. 20% of your daily activities get you 80% of the motion toward that. So let's say you're working on social media, right? You're posting on social media and you're, you know, selling makeup on the side, and you're doing this internship, and you're working a job. One moment. Sorry. So to that effect, sorry, one more second. Okay. So to that end, the results you get in your life, 80% of those results, 80% of the money that comes in to meet your financial goals and your financial vision come from 20% of your effort, which means, sorry, which means 80% of our effort is wasted all the time. No matter what you do, 80% gets you essentially no results. Okay. So what that means is, let's say, maybe we'll do it this way. For ClickMill, 20% of our effort gets us 80% of the income for ClickMill. So for example, one of our interns, and you'll be doing this at some point too, sent videos to Christian schools. He sent 10 videos to Christian schools. And of those 10 videos, one of them was seen as valuable. And we got a client that spends almost $50,000 a year on marketing that came in. That took him like 3 hours. So with 3 hours of his work, he got a $50,000 client that came in to ClickMill, and they just signed their contracts and they just came in. That's a really good return, right? But you can see the 80-20 rule working in there. He sent 10 and one of them accepted. So that's actually like a 90-10. But you know, one client, one video produced 100% of the results, and all the other videos produced nothing. So there's your odds game, and 20% of the videos produced 80% of the income. Well, same thing with the time, because of the time that we have been training him, and if this was the primary goal of the internship, we would be rearranging things. It's not. But let's say the internship's goal was to make money for ClickMill. I would stop training in SEO. I would stop training in Google Ads. I would stop training in everything and just put all the interns to sending these videos all the time, because obviously that makes income, right? So why would I put 80% of his time to learning how to do web design and learning how to do all this other stuff when I could just have him sending these videos to Christian schools all the time and make way more money? Do you see how that works? That is the most efficient use of time if money is the goal, if new clients is the goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we understand that 80-20 rule, we can say 80% of the churches and ministry leaders create 20% of the results for the kingdom. And that is shocking when you think about that. And that is a mathematically proven statistic that you can find anywhere in your life. 20% of your income gets you 80% of the things that you love. And the other stuff is just wasted money, and you end up just throwing that stuff away because you don't really like it. 20% of the clients at ClickMill bring in 80% of the income, and that is absolutely true. And so 20% of the ministry leaders and the ministries produce 80% of the kingdom results. And so if I know that 80% of the majority of ministry leaders believe that social media is the ticket, and that is going to somehow create some kind of magical impact. And, I've asked them, they don't even know what the impact is. But if we're on social media and we have a lot of people viewing and a big audience on social media, then somehow we're successful, right? You'll notice there's not an actually defined vision there. There's not a goal. It's just we want a lot of people looking. Well, if I know that ministry leaders believe that, and 80% of ministry leaders get 20% of the results, I can pretty much tell you that that is probably incorrect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in what's popular. I'm not interested in what everybody thinks. I'm interested in what works. And so the question is how effective is social media marketing, and how do we put together marketing strategies that get results based on the understanding of what social media marketing can actually do? And that is a very contrarian way of thinking. And so a contrarian, wrapping this back around, I know that was a long kind of start there. A contrarian is someone who understands that the herd is pretty much always wrong. And I mean that quite literally. Okay. If you look at, and I'll show you here, let's go to a market bubble. This is how it works with anything that people are involved in. Images. Here we go. So you're vaguely familiar with what a stock market is?
Yeah.
Okay. So when someone invests in a stock market, okay, you'll notice the price is normal. The dotted line here is how it should be going up over time. And so when I say if you invest in, like, let's say the Standard & Poor, the S&P 500 in the US over the last 150 years, you're going to get a 10% average return per year. And that is this dotted line. This is the 10% increase. That's normal. And how it should, without people being crazy, that's how it should increase based on the actual value of those companies. Now, people is the red line. And so people start saying, oh, well, hey, I'm going to invest. And you'll see it starts going up. Well, as the media gets involved, media attention, people start getting excited and they go, oh, it's going up. We need to invest, right? And it starts going up more. And then the people get enthusiastic. Oh my gosh, it's really excited. You should invest. You should invest. And so the public now is involved. So down here, these are companies investing, right? And over here, it shifts to the public. This is just people who know nothing about investing that are excited about it. Okay. This would be like pastors who know nothing about marketing, getting super excited about a marketing strategy, right? So everybody's getting super hyped. And then what's called greed sets in. And in economics or macroeconomics, this is specifically in reference to, like, you're like, oh my gosh, my grandma just made $500,000 in Bitcoin. Well, I'm smarter than my grandma. She doesn't even know how to work a computer. So I need to make 500,000. And that's greed. You see other people profiting. And so you have to get in now. And so people do that. And this is the herd, right? And you'll notice more and more people keep piling in until it's delusional and a new paradigm. And this is when you go into the store and you hear people saying, like the bag lady, like, I just bought $10,000 of Bitcoin. You should buy Bitcoin too. And when you start hearing people that should know nothing about investing talking about investing, that's when you know the herd mentality is strong. People are crazy. Like I heard people saying in the new paradigm, Bitcoin's going to 1 million. It's never going to stop. Anybody that owns like a fraction of a Bitcoin is going to be a billionaire. That's crazy. There's not enough money in the world to make that happen. That's obviously false. But what that means is now 80% of people are in, 90% of people are in. People, and at some point, because everybody is in, there's nobody left to get in. And when there's nobody left to get in, the price can no longer go up. And if the price can no longer go up, the likelihood that it comes down is very, very high, right? And because that's what everybody's anticipating. They're anticipating it's going to keep going up. Well, when it doesn't keep going up and it starts to level off right at that tippy top point, people start panicking and they start selling. Well, then what happens is then you get this whole, well, no, it's going to go back up. And then it'll return to normal. And then it's like, oh gosh, what if it doesn't return to normal? And then it's like, oh, disaster. It's never going to return to normal. I may as well just sell and save my losses. And then we come down to despair, right? But the point here is with a contrarian, what typically people do is they go with the crowd. And when things are going up, they get excited, right? Enthusiasm and greed. And they get excited and they believe everything they hear and they just pile in because supposedly that's the right thing to do. And that's what ministry leaders do with social media right now. I mean, it changes over time. They get on with social media and they get so hyped about it. And really, there's not that much there. I mean, there is. In a good strategy, you can use it to your advantage very well, but not in the way they think. And so what a good investor does, and we're talking about investing into the kingdom of heaven, the good investor is a contrarian. And what they do is they wait for everybody to crash, right? So they wait for everybody to get in. It's going up, it's going up. Everybody's buying right here. That's where I want to sell. I don't want to be there, right? And I actually sold all of my Bitcoin because I just had a little bit. I sold all my Bitcoin and, made a killing because I literally heard a bag lady in the store saying, yeah, I just bought a bunch of Bitcoin. And that's when I was like, this is not good. This is way too high. I don't care if it goes up more. I've made some profit. I'm not going to be greedy. I'm getting out because this is fine. I'm happy here. And I started a second company with that money. And I got out at 51,000 and it crashed at 60,000, something like that. And it went down. Well, here's what the investor does. They wait until that, that whole movement, that whole fad, that whole thing crashes, and they invest when everybody else is selling because they're still following the herd. When is the best time to buy? When the herd is selling because it drops the price and it's cheap. You see what I'm saying? And so when you buy when it's cheap, because everybody else is crying and in despair and in depression, like in 2008, 2009 financial crisis, you could go buy properties for like $5,000. And if you just held that for 10 years, everybody starts getting excited again, everybody's buying. You sell all your properties at the top and you've got millions and millions of dollars and you paid 100,000 for it. And everybody else buys at the top and it crashes back down and they lose everything again. This is why wealth generally and good things, this is the Matthew principle, to those who have, more will be given, because the people who have actually stewarded in a way that makes sense. It is a very contrarian approach. You do not do what everybody's doing because everybody is doing the same thing, it makes it not work, right? When all of the pastors go to social media, they're trying to split however many people are on social media. They're trying to split that 800 million ways. There's so many pastors on there. There's no effectiveness there. And so that opens up an opportunity somewhere else. Maybe it's putting a book on Amazon or, I don't know, building your own website and doing traffic from Google. But because everybody is going in one direction, that means somewhere else is more open. And that is really where the opportunity is. That is a contrarian way of thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what we learned in marketing, because if you just go on the fad that everybody's doing, you're never going to get good results in marketing. It's also true in life. So again, more of a discipleship type thing. To that end, contrarianism is a little bit more complex than that, because it's not just about being a rebel and just doing stuff that's counter, because it's like, hey, forget you. You don't know what you're doing, so I'm going to do this thing over here. That's not true either. A contrarian has a much harder mark to hit because, how do we say this? Did we talk about pickle pops in our first call?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody's got an idea and 99% of them are terrible ideas. Okay. So if you have an idea that's never been done before, the likelihood that it's a good idea is very, very low. Right. So I have this great idea I'm going to take all the pickles out of the pickle jar and I'm going to pour the pickle juice into popsicle things and I'm going to put sticks in there. I'm going to freeze them and I'm going to sell them. I'm going to sell pickle pops. What a brilliant idea, right? And that's a contrarian idea. Nobody's ever done this before. Those normal popsicles, everybody's sick of them. You know, this is a new idea. I'm going to be a contrarian and I'm going to start pickle pops. And I'm going to start that and nobody's ever going to buy a pickle pop because that's disgusting. So if we're going to be a contrarian, it's not good enough just to do what other people aren't doing. That's not effective because their idea stinks, but 99% of other ideas stink too. So the standard is much higher because we not only have to do what the herd, we all not only have to do something other than what the herd is doing, because what they're doing doesn't work, right? Based on the Pareto principle, 80% of those people are not getting the results they want. And they're all over there on social media, okay? Or whatever it is. But not only do I have to do something different, I have to do the right different thing. It's the thing that actually gets the result. And that's the hard part because we're not just not doing what the herd's doing. We're trying to find the one thing in 100 that will work. And the herd's going to be like, I don't understand what you did. You got so lucky. No, we actually went and tried to find the thing that would work. Okay. So that is what a contrarian does. The contrarian says, I don't really care what the herd's doing. I don't care what everybody says. What everybody says doesn't work because when I look at the ministries that are out there, they're not getting the results that they want. They're going out of business. I was over here on the island today and I was going to pick something up. Turned out it was from a church and they were just giving away everything for free because they couldn't pay the bills, right? Because they didn't have enough people in the church and they were shutting down. So I'm not interested in what everybody wants to do. I'm interested in what works. And if everybody thinks that's crazy, they can think that's crazy because we're going to be the ones that get the results and that will speak for itself. And so that is contrarianism. And so again, getting into a little bit of deeper stuff, but this is all related to marketing. Okay. So with that, let's come back. Do you have any questions on any of that before we keep going?
No, that's good. Thanks.
Okay. So when we speak in a contrarian way, pastors don't understand what we're talking about. And that has been a very difficult point of working with ministry leaders because they're very employee minded. They want to do everything comfortable and safe, and they only want to use the strategies that they're confident in. But the problem is the strategies that they're confident in are the strategies they've already been using, and those haven't worked. And we know that because they're calling us. Does that make sense? So in order to give them marketing strategies that work, they have to be uncomfortable. And the only way I have found to make ministry leaders and pastors comfortable is to show them in the Bible where it says to do the thing that we're talking about. So all of our strategies should be biblically based and we should be able to point to it right there. And then they're okay with that, right? Anyway, so to that end, let's come back to this and we're going to get further into this. And also, Sophie, maybe in like 30 minutes, we'll just take a 5-10 minute break and then we'll pick it back up, okay? And you can get more decaf if you need. Okay, so this works. Okay, so what the marketing funnel is, and so we looked at maybe some philosophy, some ways of thinking, some mental models. We did the 80-20 rule, and we did, what was the first one? Odds game thinking. So we talked about those, and those broadly apply to life. Now, I want to show you what marketing is in a different sort of dimension, and we're going to look at it in a relational dimension. Okay, what this marketing funnel is it is the process of building a relationship expanded to a whole bunch of people. Okay, so let's look at the connect. And after this, we're going to do a biblical view of it, okay? And one of the things that I wanted to know when I started doing this and teaching this to pastors was, is this even biblical? So I went and I read through the New Testament, I don't know, any number of times and started finding whether or not it was biblical. I didn't know what I was going to do if it wasn't in the Bible, because you can't sell this to pastors if it's not biblical. Turns out it is, which is crazy. So we'll talk more about that. But to that, okay, coming back in, let's look at relationships. Okay, when you first meet someone, and let's talk about it in regard to marriage, and I'll use my relationship with my wife as an example. Okay, what is the desired action when you're young and you want to get married? Getting married would be the desired action. That would be the vision or the goal. Okay, how do you do that? Well, you meet them and then you let's say get their phone number, you build the relationship. This is the lead nurturing. You could say that about a relationship. That's super weird, but it's true. You have a potential prospect for marriage, a suitor or something, and you're building a relationship with them in hopes that when you or them ask the other person to marry, they say yes, right? So we're nurturing the marriage lead in hopes that that desired action is taken, right? And most people, it's a funnel. You have more dates or boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever than the people that you get close to and the people you build very close, intimate relationships with, and then the people you marry, right? There's one of those, presumably. So it's also a funnel. And that's because it's a relationship, and this funnel is a reflection of a relationship. So when we build a relationship with people, it has to be in order of commitment and trust. And that is a very important element of the.
Sorry, Brett.
Yeah.
Can I just go 2 seconds?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, please. Oh.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. No, and I know I've got someone walking back and forth. My father is in town, and he was grabbing the car keys so he could go out and, I don't know, do something. Anyway, okay, you good?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the natural trust and commitment process in a relationship. Okay, trust and commitment grow together, and they have to grow together. If the commitment gets bigger than the trust, things get super weird. And if the trust gets bigger than the commitment, things get super weird. And I'll show you both of those. Okay. But for example, okay, I meet my wife for the first time. Okay. We're in college. Oh, hey, I'm Brett. It's nice to meet you. That's the connect, right? That's the handshake. That is right, the first meeting with that person. And then the next natural step is that I got down on one knee and I said, my goodness, you are the most stunning creature I have ever seen. Marry me. I know you're the one. That's a joke. That's not how it works, right? That is weird. And that would probably never work unless you're Pentecostal. I can say that. I've gone to Pentecostal churches. I still go to a Pentecostal church, and they might do something like that, and that might go over, but normal people would not do that. So connect, but this is the joke, right? Because we do this in marketing all the time. You get the church that says, "Hey, welcome to our homepage. We welcome and give us $50." Right? Like, wait, what? You want me to give? What do you mean I give you money? I don't even know who you are. I haven't even been to church, and you've got a big give button everywhere. That's crazy, right? That's like me meeting my wife and saying, like, marry me. That's the big commitment. Giving the money is the big commitment. It's like, give that, hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. Can I have $50? That's super weird. That does not work in real life. And it's no wonder why churches have a problem getting donations online, except if you go to church websites, they all have a big give button all over the homepage. And it doesn't work. They're wasting that space on their websites. We can already see how this is very contrarian, how it's very different from normal. And we can start maybe even coming up with some ideas to test to see if it will work. Not that it's just different. Is it different and work? Okay, so first thing, we meet them. What happens after we meet somebody? Okay, well, let's say I shake hands with Somi, who's my wife now, but I meet her the first time and I shake hands and I say, oh man, it was, talking with some friends or something. And hey, it was really a pleasure to meet you. The next step is, I would really love to get your phone number. Maybe we can go out for coffee. Okay. And that is the conversion. She was a passive participant in my life. I expressed an interest to, get to know her more, increase the trust, increase the commitment, right? And that's a small commitment. Okay, so from her perspective, she doesn't know me from Adam. And what does she want to know? Okay, well, he seemed pretty normal, in this conversation with friends. I would love to know if, let's say, we meet in a public space, we go to the mall. Does he show up in a creepy panel van? Does he try to kidnap me? Can he hold conversation like a normal person? Like, these are just basic trust questions. And we're willing to commit a little coffee in a public place. Decaf, no, able to commit on a small level and trust on a small level. And if those things are met, so I go to coffee with my wife, at that time, not my wife, but let's say we went to coffee and I show up, my hair looks okay. I have normal conversation. I'm not a weirdo. I don't try to kidnap her. She's like, oh, this went pretty good. I think I can trust him a little more and commit a little more. So maybe we go to a second coffee date. Okay, something like that. But the conversion here, can I get your phone number? That's name, presumably first, last, and phone number. And that's what we do on websites and marketing. Okay, now coming down here, the close, what's the close? Well, this is the lead nurturing process. We're putting them into email marketing systems and text marketing systems and whatever, all the different things we do to build a relationship. My wife and I actually recently switched churches. And we started going to a new church and we got a text and that said, hey, this is Pastor so-and-so. I wanted to check in on you. I wanted to see how your first experience was. Call me if, there's any questions you have or anything you need. And I know that's an automated message. I'm a marketer. Most people would not. I was almost like, man, this actually seems like this was written by hand, but it wasn't, because nobody has time for that. Anyway, but I was like, wow, that's pretty good. Like, I trust them a little more. I feel like they actually care about me, right? But I also know there's probably 20 new people on that same day, and they're doing that for everybody, So like, I see the system, but it worked. But to that end, close. How do you close this relationship deal? Well, you have to go and you have to increase the trust and increase the commitment. So how about we do dinner and a movie? That's much more intimate. That's much more, you get the ambiance, you get the dim lighting in the restaurant, and you have a little bit closer conversation, you share more. So you're trusting more and the commitment increases there. And at some point, when you do that enough, if everything goes well, then at some point you say, hey, I've really enjoyed this past year, this past 2 years, or whatever it is, past month, if you're Pentecostal. I joke, but I actually have a friend who's Pentecostal and he knew the girl for like 45 days and they got married. Good for him. Anyway, so to that end, and then you say, well, will you marry me? And then that's the next step that you have to get there because the trust is now high enough that the commitment has to follow. And as Christians, we look at the world and we say, this is super weird. Like, I have neighbors. They're very nice people. They're super wonderful people. And they have 3 kids together and they've been together for like 14 years. And they're not married. They're just partners. They're just cohabitating. He refers to her as his partner. And that seems very unusual because your commitment level, you trust this person enough to have a bunch of kids with them, and you trust this person to share a life with them and to share vehicles with them. You live a married life, but you're not willing to commit to marriage. That is very uncomfortable. That feels very unsafe. And people know that. And those, not only that, but people who cohabitate in that sort of way have much lower, success rates of long-term, what do you want to say, relationships, because the safety isn't there. And so that's super weird. Like you're together for 10 years and you're not married. Like something's not right there. It doesn't feel right. It feels unsafe. It feels wrong. And so and we all know this, whether or not we want to admit it. And that's also the case in relationships with marketing. If we show the client that we care about them enough, they will naturally come to us because they feel they have a relationship with us. And this is the order in which we have to set up our marketing systems, from low commitment trust to high commitment and trust. So let's go over to the ClickMail website and we're going to look at that. Okay. And we're going to get rid of our stuff over here. Let's see. ClickMail. Okay. So we're currently testing an option that we have not done before. Okay. But I want to show you our process. We're actually testing two things, and so far they're both a flop. To that end, we used to have an ebook at the bottom of the website. So here's the order of our strategy. Number one, I've got hiccups. Lowest commitment and trust is our footer. Claim your free church advertising campaign. They just fill out a couple questions on a form. A little bit longer than I'd like, but we have to have them all to build it. And we actually build them an entirely free Google advertising campaign where they get to advertise to keywords like church near me, whatever we put in keywords, and it says like church, non-denominational church in Virginia Beach, something like that. And so we'll build this for free. And it doesn't require anything from them. We'll build it for free. They just have to fill out the form. Well, people aren't actually doing that. So we're probably going to bring it back around to an ebook that we use. And that ebook gets downloads all the time. So we're probably going to switch it back over, but this is one we're testing as step one. Step two, we're testing, and I've never really had it on the site, but I figured I'd try it, is call today. We have gotten some calls, so that may stay. Step three is schedule my free strategy session. So let's think about this. There is, especially for an ebook, this is PJs at 3 a.m. That's what I call it. You don't have to commit to anything. You just put in your name and your email and you get an ebook download, or a free advertising account shows up for you. That is very low commitment. You would think anybody would do this, but again, this could be one of those 99 bad ideas, and I'm fine with that. I don't care. But the ebook has proven to work really well. So a lot of people that get the ebook will then schedule a strategy session, because downloading an ebook in the middle of the night takes no trust, no commitment. That's fine. That's the first date. And, got the phone number, got the contact information, and they're talking to me in the book, which is over 100 pages. They're talking, they're learning, they're doing like what we're doing right now. And you're like, hey, maybe this guy actually knows something. Oh, maybe he could actually help my church a little bit. Okay, I'll schedule the strategy session. So now they're willing, because they trust more, they're willing to commit more, and they'll do a strategy session. Okay. And so right now we're testing the phone call. So maybe it's a phone call, which is even, so you get a free ebook. Well, okay, maybe I'd be willing to talk on the phone. And that's a little more trust and commitment. And once you have a talk on the phone, oh, hey, Pastor Jim. I see. Yeah. Oh, it sounds like you might need to talk about your marketing strategy. Hey, I'd love to schedule a strategy session. Let's go ahead and set up a time. And then, Pastor Jim's like, yeah, let's talk strategy. And then I have him go and fill out the form for the actual appointment, which is the highest trust and commitment prior to some kind of a sale. Does that make sense? Okay. So we always want to funnel them into higher and higher trust and commitments, but at a pace that they're comfortable with. And if you try to get someone on the homepage of a church website and then say, give, that's crazy. They're never going to do that. Nobody does that. That works for really, really big ministries like Joyce Meyer or, I don't know, whoever, big famous speakers, because people trust them, or like the Salvation Army. People will give to the Salvation Army all day long, but it's because the Salvation Army has already touched their life. They already know how much work the Salvation Army does for the homeless and for them. I met a guy once who's like, yeah, I grew up in the he was super old, grew up in the Great Depression, and the Salvation Army gave my parents enough food that we didn't starve. They're like, the reason why I had food growing up was because of the Salvation Army. And then just because I had worked at the Salvation Army, he bought a bunch of stuff with me, and I wasn't even working at the Salvation Army at that time. So people will give to ministries that have already built that trust and commitment, no problem. But little ministries, that like the ones that, the average client, nobody knows who they are. So like, don't waste all the space on your website with that give button. Do something to build those relationships so that people are more willing to give something, or whatever it is. This works like a relationship. The marketing funnel is just a relationship building funnel. It is a strategic approach to building relationship. Any questions on the relationship sort of view of the marketing funnel?
No, that's good. Thanks.
Okay. So we've talked about this funnel is just a big odds game. If we want more people, we can figure out how to make the odds better, or we can just dump more people into it. And either way, we're going to fail the majority of the time, and that's fine. The second thing we talked about is being a contrarian and doing the 80-20. 80% of the, let's just say the marketing funnels that you try get, let me say 20% of the marketing funnels that you try get you 80% of the results. So for example, this footer down here has been down here for like 2 weeks and we've gotten one lead off of it. And that lead hasn't even replied. We built them a whole advertising account, followed up with them, said we're ready to give it to them. Not even heard back from them. So this is getting absolutely no results so far. Whereas the ebook gets downloaded multiple times a day. So which one would we use, right? The ebook is that 20% of the effort that gets us 80% of the results. So we're probably going to switch it back over to that. This is apparently too high commitment, even though we're giving it away for free. And that's fine. So we talked about 80-20. We want to find the 20% of our effort that gets us the 80% of the results. So we're doing less work for more results. And we've talked about the marketing funnel. We talked about its odds game, and we talked about its relationship building process. Okay, so that is the next thing about the marketing funnel we want to know. Now, biblically, there is, let's talk about this. Okay, so Jesus, so for me, I was starting to teach this to pastors, and I was like, well, I need to know if this is actually in the Bible, because pastors are always like, whoa, marketing, we don't need that. Jesus will provide the growth. And it's like, well, yes and no. Like we talked about, the miraculous is relevant to some degree, but at the same time, obviously God gave us brains and we're supposed to think too. We can't just throw everything to the miraculous, and that is definitely something that we do in the Christian church. So with that said, how does Jesus influence people in the Bible? And Jesus influences people in 5 steps. Do you have any questions before I go into this?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. So as I read through the Bible, I found 5 things that Jesus does, and I'm actually putting myself on the spot because I'm going to do this off the top of my head, but no, I got this. Okay. So the first thing that Jesus does is he goes out. Let me think. Nope. The first thing he does is he knows who his audience is. Okay. So he knows who his audience is. So let's say Peter, James, and John on the boat, right? On the boats in Matthew, or you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Peter, James, and John, he knows who they are. Okay. So he knows who they are. These can be switched around. We're going to do it the other way. Okay. So we'll say step 1, he goes to his audience. Okay. So he goes to Gennesaret. No, we're going to do it the other way. He knows his audience. All right. So let's say he's looking, he sees the 3 guys on the boat, and what does he know about them? Well, they're fishermen. They're on a boat. They're cleaning nets. It's morning and there's no fish on the boats. He knows his audience. Those guys have a serious problem. They just fished all night and they have no fish. Okay, so Jesus knows his audience. They're fishermen. They have no fish. That's their job. They can't sell the fish, so they can't provide for their families. These guys are having a bad day. And we talked about in the initial training, we want to solve problems and meet needs. That's how we get results. What is Jesus doing when he knows his audience? He's figuring out what their problems are and what their needs are so that he can get results. So very interesting. The first thing he does is he knows his audience. The second thing is he goes to them. Okay. So he goes to them. It doesn't just say that he went to somewhere around them, or, he kind of waited for that. He went to Gennesaret. I believe this is Matthew. I don't know. Anyway, he goes to Gennesaret, and he doesn't just go to the town they're in. He walks himself. He invites himself onto their boat, right? He's talking to the crowds, and he's like, hey, I'm getting on your boat. Push off so I can speak to these crowds. They're crowding me. And they're like, okay. And then, okay, so he goes to them. He walks himself right onto their boat. So he knows who they are. He goes to them. Then he meets a deeply felt need. Okay, and this is a non-spiritual need. So he meets a deeply felt need, and he says, throw your nets over. And they go, well, we just fished all night and there's no fish around here, but all right, since you say so. And then, of course, what do they get? The biggest need that they have is met, right? They fill up 2 boatloads of fish. They're sinking. They have a ton of fish. Okay. So he knows who they are. He goes to them. He meets a deeply felt need. Then he shifts the conversation from the worldly need to the spiritual need, right? So he says, here's the need that you needed. You needed fish. Here's the fish. I'm going to meet your need. Then he says, if you think that's good, I'll make you fishers of men. That's my paraphrase. It's obviously not the exact quote, but I'll make you fishers of men. Why didn't he say something else like farmers of men or wood, wood choppers? What is a wood chopper? A guy who chops wood. A lumberjack. I'll make you lumberjacks of men. You'll chop men down and haul in the wood. You'll harvest the wheat of the men. We know that's a biblical metaphor. Why didn't he use that on them? They don't care about that. That's not his audience. He knows his audience. These guys fish for fish and they pull them up in the nets and they pull them onto the boat. He is talking to fishermen. So he says, I will make you fishers of men, which is a very spiritual concept. And they probably had no idea what he's talking about. But he tied it to the fish because they understand that. So he met the fish need, and then he shifts it from physical fish to spiritual fish. If you like the physical fish, that's not even the best part. The best part is the spiritual fish. And so he shifts it so that they understand, right? Hey, this guy just gave us like a ton of fish. It's very obvious in that passage that this is a lot of fish, which is worth a lot of money. This guy who just provided for our families miraculously is saying that that's not even that valuable, and this fishing for men thing is valuable. Okay. And because of that distinction, they're willing to leave everything, including the fish that they just got. They just walked away and, went with Jesus and left all the fish. So the fourth thing is Jesus is shifting the conversation away from the worldly need that he met to the supernatural or the spiritual need, the need, which we all know in church is, Jesus. And then lastly, he's calling them to action. Follow me, right? Follow me and I will make you fishers of men. So you can see the step 4 and the step 5 right there in the same sentence in that one. And a call to action is a marketing strategy. And it's very, very clear. Yes or no, right? With the rich young ruler came with a need for information. Jesus knew who he was. Jesus obviously went to him because he was in the town, and the guy came right up to him. He's right there. And he says, meet my need for information. What must I do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus says, well, follow the law and the prophets. And he's like, I already do that. And he goes, oh, okay. So you're that holy. Okay. Well, what you really need to do is give away all your possessions and then follow me. So he said, follow me. And that's the call to action there. And the guy goes, well, I don't really want to do that. And Jesus did not chase him and say, well, hold on. Actually, I know you don't want to follow me, but over here at synagogue, we're putting on this big event and it's going to be crazy. We're going to have a carnival and we're going to do all this stuff. And the kids are going to have, I don't know, an Easter egg hunt. It's going to be crazy. You really should come and follow me. He didn't do that. He's just like, all right, see you later. And Jesus went on his way. So he gave people freedom of choice after the call to action. And the call to action, right, which is here, desired action. The call to action is a very clear statement saying, I want you to do this, do it right now. Apply today. Schedule your free tour, right? Follow me. And the guy said no, and Jesus said, okay. So this is all over the New Testament. You also see this playing out with the woman at the well. Right? Jesus goes to her. He knows who she is. He knows why she's at the well in the middle of the day, right? She's living a crazy lifestyle. And he meets a deeply felt need, right? Which presumably, because she seems to indicate that it was very important to her that he told her things about her life. And she said, he told me everything I ever did. So he meets a deeply felt need. They're talking about water, right? Which also is the need. They're talking about water. He's saying, I need physical water. Can you draw me water? She's helping him with the physical water. She understands the importance of that. And then he goes, yeah. But if you knew who you were talking to, you would ask me for living water, and I would give you water that will never run dry. She doesn't even know what he's talking about. She's like, what are you talking about? You don't even have a bucket. This is the deep well. The well, how are you going to get to this living water? She doesn't know what he's talking about. but she understands that he's talking about something very important because she understands the importance of the physical water, and he just shifted it to the spiritual water. So that's another example of that. And he does that again directly after that story. He does it when the disciples come up and they say, Master, we brought you food, right? They went out and got lunch. And why are you talking to that weird lady? We got you food. And he goes, I have food you don't know anything about, right? He's talking about his provision from God, right? Man does not eat of bread alone. Well, they're like, wait a minute, where's he hiding the sandwich? He's got a sandwich in his back pocket. They understand that he's saying something invaluable, but they don't understand that he's speaking spiritually. So he's always going to them, right? He goes to his audience. He knows who his audience is. He meets the deeply felt need. He shifts the conversation from the worldly need, food, right? The 4,000. These 4,000 people need food. He gives them food. They're in the middle of the wilderness, and the disciples say, send them home. They're hungry. It's a long drive. Nope, we're gonna give them food. And then they followed him, right? So he meets a deeply felt need. He shifts the conversation from the worldly need to the spiritual need, and then he calls them to action, and some number of them do it. And so what do we see with the marketing funnel? The connect phase is where we identify our target audience. We want to know who we're talking to. Click no, we talk to pastors and ministry leaders, right? We go to where they're at. Okay, so here's an example of where they're at. We're going to go to Facebook. We go to where they're at. And let's go to pastors, and let's go to groups, and let's go to 45,000 members, pastors. I don't really like that group. Pastors and ministers. Where's my Kenya Pastors Fellowship? Let's go to that one. Pastor to the Pastor Global Prayer Network. Great. So here's 14,000 people for pastors only, 27,000 people. International Pastors Alliance, 14,000 people. Okay, so here are all these people. Pastors Fellowship there. I like this one. Pastors, theologians, and Christians all over the world. Cool. 45,000 people. And we're going to go into our past posts. So I'm going to go into here, and we're going to say why church events don't grow your church. I'm going to comment on this. I don't know if this will work. If it doesn't, we'll submit it. I'm going to delete that. And then I'm going to edit this and see. Well, okay. Anyway, we're going to go back and see if it come up. Sometimes if you comment, it'll just bump your post to the top and you don't have to repost it. Nope, didn't work. Okay, well, either way. So I'd come in here and I'd just write a post and put a picture on it and drop it right here at the top of the group. It's immediately approved in most groups. And whatever that blog is or that video is in front of 45,000 people. Okay, so we know who our audience is. It's pastors. We go to them. We meet a deeply felt need, which is whatever that's about. Why church events don't grow your church. That's a need. That's like, well, yeah, we do Christmas every year and the church never grows. Like, what's going on? Okay, so we answer the question. We meet a deeply felt need. And in marketing, in ministry, you have to shift to the spiritual. Well, I'm talking to pastors. I'm not selling anything spiritual. So I'm not trying to convince them of anything spiritual. I'm just selling marketing services. So I just go, here's the need, meet the need. This is the information you want. Come and schedule a strategy session. And then we sell marketing services. In ministry, you do shift to the spiritual. Okay. And that is a biblical marketing process. Then once we, right, so what do? We connect. So we know our audience, we go to them, we meet a deeply felt need. So we offer to meet that need in the post, right? Whether it's a blog or a YouTube video, that sends the audience to a place where they can sign up. So in the YouTube video description, hey, if you want the full course, if you want the free ebook, if you want the free, whatever it is, come over here and sign up right now. And then they convert. If they go to the blog on the website says, schedule your free strategy session, download your ebook. That's what the banners say. So they convert. When they convert, we follow up with them and try to close down. And then we call to action, right? Sign up today. Go ahead and let's start these marketing services, whatever the next step is. and we call them to action. So that is a biblical process that Jesus uses to influence people that is directly relevant to marketing, right? And marketers have figured this out just by spending a lot of money. Jesus just did this because presumably he's God, and he knew. So Jesus is the best influencer. Maybe we could say marketer. I don't really like that. I don't think Jesus was a marketer, but he's the best influencer of all time. And what he did worked, and it is directly related to this marketing process. Questions on that? Thoughts, pushback, anything else?
I have a question about the 5-step process.
Yeah.
Just a story came to my mind that's in the Bible, so maybe you could
Yeah.
explain it with that. You know,
Please.
the one, so in the steps where you're saying meets a deeply felt need, not spiritual, and then the next step that he meets the spiritual needs. How would you use that in the story? You know, the story about the paralyzed man and his friends carried him
Yes.
and dropped him down in the roof.
That's a great
And Jesus
so yeah, and so
his
for
physical
starters,
nature.
I won't say that's so for starters, yeah, I won't say this is hard and fast in every
Yeah,
because sometimes there is the miraculous, right?
yeah,
Absolutely. So I won't say it's hard and fast for every single circumstance, but what I'm saying is it's a general theme that runs through scripture, and when you use it for your marketing strategy, it creates good results. But sorry, finish your question. The paralyzed man, they dug a hole in the roof and dropped him down.
So then he well, I guess you've answered my question, but he heals his spiritual needs before he heals his physical needs, if I remember correctly. He says your sins have been forgiven. And then the Pharisees are like, who is this that can forgive sins or whatever? And then he tells them to get up and walk. I hope I've remembered it correctly.
Yeah, that's a great question. He does that on a couple of occasions where he directly ties, because the ancient Jews believed that if you had some kind of malady, if you were blind or if you were paralyzed, and they say, who sinned, this man or his parents? They believed that the malady, right, the illness or whatever it was a direct response from God cursing evil behavior, sinful behavior. So to that end, like I said, I wouldn't say that is a blanket statement to say every instance in the New Testament, but if you look through the New Testament, you see that as Jesus's basic operating structure. He goes out, he knows his audience, he meets the needs, the physical needs, he meets the need for food, and then calls people to action, right? Go and send no more. Go, whatever it is. So that's general, not in every situation. But to that end, and I'm just thinking out loud here because I don't know 100% the answer to your question. However, in the situation you're talking about, Jesus is meeting both the physical need and the spiritual need simultaneously. And so the system doesn't really change because he doesn't have to, like, let's say with the fishermen, he gives them fish. Miraculously, there's nothing inherently spiritual about the fish. So he calls them to the spiritual. But if he can heal the illness, the malady, and they believed, and this is something that they taught in Bible college, right? When I went to Bible college, they believed that being able to heal an illness was basically lifting the curse of God from them, which means you're forgiving the sin. If they believed that, then the meeting of the physical need is also meeting of the spiritual need. That's the direct following. So it actually happens at the same time, and he gets to skip a step because of the nature of that need. But it accomplishes both of them still. It's just maybe not in the exact order. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then what's he do once he heals these people? He gives them a call to action. So in one step, he accomplishes 2 steps, right? He heals the physical and the spiritual, presumably the spiritual. And then he calls them to action. So he kind of compresses 2 steps into 1 step, but it's still all there. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I know that's good. I just came into my mind
Yeah.
when we were going through the steps.
Absolutely. And sometimes it happens in marketing. Like, you realize that two things you're doing could actually just be one thing. And you try that and it works much better, right? And in that case, obviously, that's the case. I want to go into meeting a deeply felt need a little bit more specifically. In the case, we'll go with the paralyzed man. They lower him down on the, through the roof, and he's talking to the paralyzed guy. I try to lighten this stuff up because, marketing's marketing. But, they're talking to the paralyzed guy, and he's like, all right, dude, you're hanging here in the room. I'm having this lesson. What do you want? And the guy's like, this is a rude Jesus. I'm saying Jesus here is rude. He's like, all right, guy, what do you want? And the guy's like, well, I'm paralyzed. I'm being lowered down. I want to be healed of my paralysis. And Jesus is like, all right. I'm going to do this the Pentecostal way because it's silly. All right. But, Jesus is like, all right, in the name of the Father and of me and the Holy Spirit, and he whacks the guy on the head and he's like, be healed. And the guy opens his eyes and Jesus is like, how do you feel? And he's like, well, I can't move my toes. And Jesus is like, well, yeah, but, can you get up? And the guy's like, no, I can't get up. I'm still paralyzed. And Jesus is like, well, how about that headache that you had? And the guy's like, yeah, I did have a headache. He's like, well, how's that? He's like, well, that's actually gone. He's like, there you go. That was it. That was the miracle. Right. And so, I healed your headache. Well, does that guy go away disappointed, or does he go away excited? He still got a miracle, but it wasn't the deeply felt need. It wasn't the most deeply felt need. Like, okay, yeah, his quality of life is better, but he was hoping for paralysis to be healed and he got a headache fixed. That's very disappointing. And so in the church, we do that all the time. We promise to meet needs in a powerful way, and they show up and we kind of we kind of do it, but not really, let's say this for single moms. Hey, single moms, come to church. We've got a single moms ministry. We love single moms. We're all about single moms, blah, 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 blah. Single moms show up. And, oh yeah, look, we've got a children's care ministry over there, so you can come into church. It's like, well, okay, you got a nursery program and you take my kids for an hour. I thought you were going to teach me communication skills. I thought you were going to teach me how to have healthy relationships. I thought you were going to teach me how to expand my income so I don't have to work 80 hours a week to support these kids and never see them. But you watch my kids for an hour on Sunday, I guess that's okay, and do they go away disappointed, or do they go away excited? They go away disappointed. So that is an example of meeting a need, but not meeting the right need, not meeting the most deeply felt need. We do that all the time in the church. And so, hi, Destiny, how are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Excellent. We are filming Destiny, so anybody who's watching, this is Destiny, our business manager. And Destiny, how are we doing? We doing anything? You need anything?
No, I'm good. I'm just here in case you had any questions. We can go over it later though, once you're done with the training.
Totally, can go over the next week's stuff. Okay, great. Okay, so to that end, I want to back up. Destiny, we're filming this for future interns. We're going super in depth in this, so you can provide this. And also, we had some lovely feedback from Sophie, and she said she liked the videos of me teaching better than like the Brian Dean videos. Maybe just, I don't know, a little more personal, a little more insightful, and maybe more practical because we're actually doing it with people. So we're filming this. Great feedback. And if you recall, Sophie, feedback is step 5 in creating results, which is what we went over last week as well. So anyway, coming back into it, how do we do marketing in the church, Sophie? So what are the steps? Know who your audience is. You go to them. You meet a deeply felt need. You shift the conversation from the deeply felt need to the, to the spiritual need, which is Christ, right? And then you call them to action. That is correct. That is how Jesus would have done it, generally speaking, in Scripture. How do we do it in church? Do we know who our audience is? No. We think we're talking to everyone. I wouldn't hesitate to say 90% of the pastors I talk to think their audience is everyone, because they're going into the whole world, because how good are the feet of the people that spread the good news? And they cite the Great Commission, and they say, we're supposed to go everywhere, so we're talking to everyone. And that is 100% wrong, and we'll go back to that. But they don't know who their audience is. They don't go to their audience, because what do we do in church? We hope people come to us. We have big doors, and we always talk about our front door, right? And if you listen to other church marketing companies, which at some point I hope you do, because you'll see kind of some differences in how we teach things and how they teach things. But how do we make the front doors of your ministry bigger? That's what we always talk about. Why do we need to make the front doors bigger? Because there's not enough people coming in. We're waiting for people to come to us. Jesus went to them. So in the church, we don't know who our audience is. We don't go to them. We wait for them to come to us. We don't meet deeply felt needs. We either make pickle pops, which meet no needs, because we have a great idea and we never ask for feedback. So we don't meet needs, or we meet the wrong needs, right? Or maybe we meet a need, but it's not the right need even. And all of that doesn't work, right? When we're talking about being contrarians, we have to find the need that is so powerful. People will come from all over the place to find us, okay? And that happens in scripture in Matthew 4. Jesus is teaching and preaching and healing. Specifically with the healing, people go all over the desert in Syria. They grab their friends out of their house. They walk themselves across the desert, grab their friends, and they're like, you got to see this guy. And they bring him back. He heals all of those people. And those people go out and get people from everywhere and bring them to him. He heals those people, and then people from everywhere, and I don't know all the places, Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, Syria, whatever, all the places. People from all over follow him. And then he has thousands of people following him through the wilderness because he met the needs. Those people went and got friends. He met those needs, and he just kept meeting the needs, right? And we see this in the New Testament in Acts as well, where people would come in and sell their possessions, and the disciples would distribute the money as people had need, and there were no needy people among them, right? There were no people that had crazy needs in the church. Why did people keep coming to the church? Because everybody in the church had their needs met. So when we meet needs, people follow us. If you want to grow a following, you meet a need. That is the marketing secret code, right? So to that end, in the church, we don't meet needs because we don't know how to assess needs. We don't even know that we're supposed to meet needs. We think the need that we need to meet first is the spiritual need. That is the biggest need. That's correct. But that is not how people hear us. Nobody wants to hear us talk about Jesus until after they know we care about them by meeting worldly, physical needs, whatever that is, whatever that audience has. So what do? We don't meet physical needs usually because we don't understand that that's most important to worldly people. They don't understand the spiritual needs. So what do? We just start with the spiritual needs and just do that first. And we just whack people with the Bible and they feel criticized instead of cared about. We also, in doing that, miss the whole shift to the spiritual needs. We just start there. And lastly, most churches are really bad at calls to action. And again, not trying to criticize. They either have no calls to action because we just kind of hope people will do the thing we want them to do and they'll know what we want them to do, which doesn't happen. Or like some ministries, and Destiny knows what I'm talking about here, they'll have 37 calls to action. And you'll just be so confused. You'll have no idea what it is that you're supposed to do. It'll be like the homepage of the website. And this is, again, bringing this kind of biblical stuff into practical digital marketing. You'll go to the homepage of a website, and this is a new user, a new potential visitor. What do you want them to do? Go to church on Sunday. That's it. But what do we tell them? Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe on this, go to that. And then we say, come for men's breakfast and join our all-night hallelujah worship night. Like, are these really things? How do you know we're talking to men? Why are we inviting new users to men's brunch? That's only relevant to 50% of those people. Bad call. All-night hallelujah worship night. Great thing for people who are already committed. That breaks that trust in relationship. From an outsider's perspective, and Sophie, you probably can resonate with this. If the first thing you heard about a Christian church was that you were invited to a 12-hour worship prayer service where you're like locked in the church, And if you leave, people are going to look at you because you're not spiritual enough. Like, that's uncomfortable. Why is that on the homepage? That's a terrible call to action. That is way too high trust and commitment. That is for people who are already involved in a relationship with God. So we have 37 calls to action on a homepage website, and that is equally confusing from a call to action with church. And that would be like Jesus going up to, the what am I saying? The Peter, James, and John on the boats, right? And he's like, hey guys, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. And also follow me on Facebook and subscribe on Instagram and subscribe on YouTube and come over to our website and download the ebook and show up on church on Sunday. And like he gives off 37 of those and they look at him like a crazy person because I don't even know what you just said. So when we have a call to action, we have very specific and strategic calls to action that follow a process that increases in trust and commitment until our user or our visitor is taking the desired action that we want. Okay. That is the biblical approach to marketing, and the church does not do it well broadly, right? Almost on every single step, it's done incorrectly. Any questions or thoughts on that?
So see the majority of people you work with, like pastors, do they know what the need is, or do you have to like significantly help them to figure that out?
Yeah, we have to give them strategies to find out. A lot of times we'll tell them to do a survey, 3-question survey. And I tell them like, listen, don't send it out in email. Like if their church is huge, then that's different. But if it's like a, relatively small church with 500 members or under 200 members or whatever, like if it's feasible that they ask, I'm like, I want you to walk around before and after service every day for the next month. And I want you to hand these out and say, I would like you to fill this out. And I'm going to come around in 5 minutes and I'm going to grab it from you. You don't need to put your name on it. But something along the lines of, oh, my camera turned off. Well, I guess my camera got too hot. Something along the lines of, number one, what is the most powerful experience you've ever had with a Christian ministry, with a church, right? Because that's going to tell you what met a need. Well, a powerful experience is an experience that meets a need. So they're going to tell you some experience that met a need, and that's going to give you a lot of information. Was it some kind of big rock concert, or was it something more intimate in a small group? And you're going to find that 80% of the answers, right, the Pareto principle, are all a small 20% of the possibilities that they could do, right? So it's going to tell you, here's what, your audience is all kind of saying, these 1 or 2 things out of the 10 that you're doing are the most impactful. So just prune off all the stuff that you're wasting your energy on and just focus in on those 2, right? And you're going to get way better results. So what's the most impactful experience? What would you like more of in our church? And what do you not like about our church? So here's what you don't like. Here's what you do like. Here's the most impactful experience you've ever had with a church. And that's going to tell you a lot about their wants and needs. And so we say, go and do that with as many people, at least 100, as many people as you can possibly do it, and just do it in person so you get 100% response rate so you can start figuring it out. And then you go through all of those, you add up the data, and you'll start seeing 80% of the people want 20% of the things. If you're offering 10 things, 20% of the things are 2, and that's your most effective. Or maybe it's 20% of the things, but you're not even offering those things. So now you need to cut a whole bunch of stuff out of your ministry and reorient over to these things that are more impactful. Okay. So it can help you reorient your ministry too. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
No, that's all.
Excellent. Okay. So let's do this. Let's take a 7-minute break. If we're okay with that, we can grab coffee, grab water, use the restroom, whatever. We'll do that. We'll come back, and then we're going to pick up with a more complete marketing funnel, and we're going to show all of the different areas of this funnel. And then we're also going to move over to an image of strategy, and we're going to go and look at that as well. Okay?
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, and Destiny, I'll be back in a minute. All right. Destiny, things going all right? Good. All right.
Yeah.
Sophie, you ready to continue? Sorry?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Sophie, on thinking about any of that, questions, thoughts, comments, anything you want to throw in? Because I know, like you said, as you were watching some of those trainings, it was more helpful when there were questions and other people kind of interacting. I'd love to, as much as you want to throw in, you're welcome to.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking like it would be good for me to think because I've never thought the way Jesus's ministry looked that way in the 5-step process. And so I think it will be interesting for me to think back to my salvation and just have a look to see
Interesting.
what Jesus used in those processes to bring me and for me to give my ultimate yes to Jesus. So I think that's super interesting. It's something that I'll
Yeah.
probably think about this week. And
That's great. Yeah, and maybe also in what ways were individuals involved in that, like people, and in what ways was a church or the church involved in that, and did the process with a person or multiple people follow that basic funnel structure, or did a process with a church follow that, and see what you kind of find there too. That's awesome. Anything else?
not at the moment. I think I told you last time I'm someone that like ponders things and
That's
then
okay.
has questions.
All right, totally fine. I just want to make sure I can talk forever. I want to make sure Destiny knows. I want to make sure that I'm giving you the opportunity to ask anything you want. So, okay. So this is the real marketing funnel, which is loading here. Okay. So in marketing, okay, and going to a definition of marketing, why do people get paid for this? It is, and I'm actually going to get rid of this for a moment. We'll go back to ClickMail. Okay, so basic definition of marketing, probably should have led with this, is taking a product or service to the market. Okay, now a lot of ministry leaders don't believe they fit into this, and they are unfortunately, again, incorrect. They would say, we don't have a product or service. We're not a business, which is also another issue kind of with, I'm going to say mental models or thinking. Ministries have a very difficult time with the idea of business, which is a different subject. Maybe we can talk about another time. To that end, moving backwards, taking a product or service to the marketplace. Well, in Jesus's day, you didn't need a marketer because the marketplace was just at the city gates, right? And we hear about this in Proverbs, the wise man sits among the council of elders at the city gates, something to that effect. Well, they're in the marketplace. They're governing the day-to-day activities of the town, of the city. And that's where all the stalls are. That's where all the food is. That's where all the carpenters are. And they have their wares, and people show up to the little, farmer's market, basically. And that's where everything is. That is the Amazon, that's the Facebook, that's the Airbnb, it's everything. There's no bunch of markets. There's just one market, and you walk over to it and you buy what you need. Obviously, as industry has developed and technology has developed, there are so many marketplaces now. It's mind-boggling. There are marketplaces for rental cars and for actual cars and for rental houses and for marketing services and for digital media, graphic design. I mean, there's a marketplace for every single thing you can possibly imagine. And most of the time, there's multiple marketplaces for these things. Excuse me. And even beyond that, there are audiences for every specific thing. You know, back in Jesus' day, like there's a fishing audience because people fish to feed their families. But now we have audiences of like, you know, I'm just making this up because I just first thing that comes to mind, but like, what team are you? This is so 5 years ago. What team are you, like Jacob or, you know, whatever from the Vampire Diaries or when it's not even right, the whatever the vampire show is, you know, and there's like the werewolf guy and the vampire guy and everybody's got a side. Like there are whole communities around that. And I'm not a fan of that, but that's just what came to mind. And so now there are an unlimited number of ways to reach people, you know, and people apparently have a need to discuss that subject. And if you do it better than anyone else, then presumably you could market to that audience in that place and reach them. Well, it has become so complicated that where in the olden days, in the ancient times, you just got your, you know, sacks that you make, your wineskins, and you stuck them on a cart and you just took them to the city gates and sold them. That was marketing, was just the act of walking to the city gates. Well, nobody needs to do that unless you're just too lazy to pull your cart and then whatever. Now, nobody knows where the city gates are. Nobody knows where the marketplace is. That is a whole area of specialty because there are so many marketplaces, and it's all about understanding what's the product or service and where do you take it to get people to take action. The homepage of Google is a marketplace, you know, and people don't even know it. The homepage of Bing, YouTube, Google, Facebook groups, every single one of those is a marketplace. Some of them are marketplaces for ideas. Some are actual sales of stuff, marketplaces. So to that end, that's what marketing is. Secondly, churches often don't realize they need marketing because they'd say, well, we're not a business. We don't have products and services, except they're wrong. They absolutely do have services. It's called a church service. Like the goal is to get people to show up to a service that you offer. But they would say, well, we're not charging for it. It's not a service. It's a service. Like that's what it is. You can call it whatever you want. You know, you can call it a pink purple leader or purple, whatever you want to call it. You can call it whatever you want. The act of getting people into a church service is the exact same process of getting people into a doctor's office or getting people to go tour a wedding venue. You just do marketing and it works because churches have a service no matter what they want to call it. And a lot of times they don't want to call it a service like a business because they have a lot of issues with business, but the process of marketing it is exactly the same. So to that end, churches offer services. Often churches have products and you just market those. Marketing is a field because there's so many different marketplaces, so many different places to reach people and to take people to do the marketing. It's just crazy complicated now. So that's marketing. Thoughts or questions on that?
No, that's good. I just think, like, even for me, it's learning so much in terms of like a service in a church being marketing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just something that's so foreign to me and obviously just foreign to so many people, but it works. So,
well, you know, and there's pros and cons too, because there's different models of church. I mean, in the West, we have a corporate model of church, which is you go find a big building, you rent a big building, and you get a bunch of people in it. And, you know, an unfortunate side effect of that is you have lots of bills. And so now you have to have so much income coming in to cover those bills. And now it's very businessy because you have to have whether, you know, again, I'm not interested in the pastor's philosophy of whether the church is a business or not. I'm interested in the results. And what I know is that the corporate model of church is that you have a lot of expenses, you hire people, which is fine. You know, we have a building, you got to pay the mortgage, you got to pay the rent, you got to pay for upkeep to the building. So you need $20,000 a month coming in. And if you don't have that, you know, I don't know what to call it because the only term for it is you go out of business. But maybe they don't like that. So we'll say you go out of church. either way, what we're talking about is business, like that's what it is. Now, in the early church, you have home churches, right? People just go to work and they just pay for the affairs of their home, and they invite 10 people over or 20 people over, and they just have them in the upper room. And that was church. That's what was actually church in the New Testament. And that is not a corporate model, right? You just do your life and then invite people over to do life with you, and you don't have any extra expenses. People all just bring some food and you all go to your house, and that's much closer. And that's different. And I go to a home church in addition to a corporate church. So I find that the relationships in a home church are much more deep and meaningful, and I learn a lot more there. I go to corporate church because they have programs, and it's very beneficial for my 4 children. So both have upsides, but when we talk about business, a corporate model of church, all philosophy aside, operates shockingly similar to a business because we have certain monetary needs we have to have met. So that impacts marketing. If it looks a lot like a business and you need people to get into the building because you have to have a certain amount of money coming in, you need to do marketing. Do you need to do marketing for a home church model? No, you don't need to do that because you don't need people to show up. It's people who want to be there. It's people who find value in the personal connection, and you really can't have a lot of people there. It's very small intentionally. And you don't need marketing for that because walking around and just talking to people is enough marketing. So does that kind of go a little bit more into what you're saying?
Yeah. I was just thinking when you were talking there about what you were talking about earlier about giving, so like tithing and things like that. So it seems almost like an uncomfortable conversation, but is that like a marketing model as well?
It is a very uncomfortable conversation, and the church kind of has itself in a pickle because you want to say, like, it's like let me see. I don't know if this is accurate. I'll say it. I don't know. I'm going to assess my own thinking after I say it. I think out loud oftentimes. However, it's like going to a car salesman and asking if you need a car. He's like, well, I mean, you don't always have to buy a car, but you should definitely buy a car. That's, well, wait, what do you mean? It's like, well, you need a car because that car over there is super cool and I get paid, but it might not, you might not always have to have a car. That's what happens when you go to church. Like, they have to pay the bills. And so they're not saying you have to give because you give in faith. We're not pressuring you, but at the same time, you need to give. That's the message you get from churches. And, they have a stake in the matter. Like, you're asking someone who needs money if you should give money to them. And the answer is always going to be, well, biblically, it's in faith, but yes, because if you don't give, then we're out of church, right? Out of business. So yeah, anyway, to your point, does that again add to kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I just think like I love learning new stuff and like having different viewpoints and stuff like that. So I do feel like it can be uncomfortable, but in a good way, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And again, that's not to criticize a corporate model. I don't think it's the biblical model, but I also don't think it's an evil model. But we just need to recognize what it is so that we can figure out, again, as contrarians, what gets results, and we can get people into church. But if we can't just say church functions very similar to a business, then we can't come up with strategies that are functional. Okay. So to that end, that's what marketing is. And I want to go here. Okay. So connect. How do we connect with our audience? Okay. So the connect phase is the handshake. This is when we know who our audience is. We go out to them and we at least offer to meet a deeply felt need. That's why they'll follow us, right? We meet a deeply felt need, or at least offer, people will follow us. Okay. We connect. And also, I'll stop here before I go into all of these. Connect is actually called traffic generation marketing. And there are whole companies that just say, we're going to send your website lots of traffic, or your YouTube channel, right? Pay us $100 and we'll get you 100,000 likes, whatever it is. That is a traffic generation marketing company, and they just specialize in connecting. So we might say this is a blog, right? People look up how to build a deck, or You know, who is Jesus? They look up these terms on Google, on Bing, on Yahoo, whatever, and they find blogs, and the blogs are a connection point there in the search engine. And it says, learn who Jesus is, powerful, life-changing information, whatever. And then they go, oh, all right, click on it. That's the first connection. That's the first handshake. Social media marketing, right? We know who our audience is on social media. We went through this and I showed you groups in social media with pastors. That's our audience. So we know who they are. We go into those groups and we drop content in there that is valuable. At least we think, right? It's a good idea. I think this content will be valuable to them. And this is where you're going to specialize in your internship too. So this is good. I think this content will be valuable to pastors. However, if it gets rejected by moderators in 20 groups, they don't think it's valuable. So I quit posting that. If I get no feedback, you know, like for example, with the internship program, we didn't know if it was valuable. We just started offering it. It's one of the most successful things we do. We've got interns on we have 2 new interns that have applied since you applied. Like, it's crazy. People really want to learn this and they want to learn it from a Christian perspective, and we would never have known. But we are going to look at the things that work on social media and put more on there, and then we're going to look at the things that don't work and don't do that. So we just always get more and more effective. And that's called, again, I know I'm focusing in on this one, that is called the 1% rule. And that is another mental model. Sophie and Destiny, I don't know if I've told you this one. I think maybe we have. The 1% rule, right? Sophie, in a sort of a employee safe and secure mindset mentality, what do we want to do? We want to get it right the first time. We want to go from 0 to 100, right? Are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, you're fine. Right. And that's what we want to do. We want to get it right. And that's a very perfectionistic way of thinking. We want to get it right the first time. And that's how we want to improve. And one of the reasons why we procrastinate so much is because we put so much pressure on ourselves to perform at a crazy level that we're not capable of performing on. When we optimize and we say, hey, which of these social media posts works, which of it doesn't, we post it in 50 groups, right? And what do? We're going to fail on 49 out of the 50. 49 of them are going to get no traction, and one of them will probably hit pretty good. Well, then we know the audience better, and we say, hey, look at that. Now I know what kind of content they want. And then we make more content like that one, and we see how that works. And we optimize and optimize, and that is the 1% rule. We don't need to be perfect overnight. We don't need to get it right the first time. We just need to improve 1% a day. I just need to do 1% better every day. And that's also very biblical. Jesus does not say, accept Christ and then be perfect tomorrow. No, he says you're going to go through a process of sanctification, and you're going to become a little bit more like me every day. And through the Holy Spirit, I'm going to speak to you, and we're going to slowly get your life under control. And you're going to look more and more like me until you die, and you'll look hopefully a lot like me by then. That's the 1% rule. That's what the Bible advocates for. The Bible does not advocate for you being perfect immediately outside of, Jesus' blood makes you perfect, right? So to that end, we optimize in social media marketing, in our YouTube videos, which YouTube videos, right? That's another way we connect. We put YouTube videos out there, and that's where people find us when they search on YouTube, and we optimize those over time, hopefully to create stuff people are actually wanting for that they need. Physical outreach, signs, billboards, the guy with the Jesus is coming soon sign on the corner of your downtown, right? That's physical outreach. Advertising, which is Google ads, Facebook ads, Amazon ads. That is a connection point where you go out to the audience, you say something that presumably they need, and then you invite them to follow you, right? So another part of the connect is creating a target audience, a profile of, our audience is Pastor David. That's actually a very statistically high statistic. What do you want to say? There's a lot of Pastor Davids. Pastor David, who is between 25 and 44, right? Old enough to have decision-making power over the marketing choices of the church, old enough to be a head pastor, but young enough that he knows how to work the internet, because we're on the internet, right? And, he went to Christian school. His budget is say less than $1,000 a month, and we can say all kinds of things about Pastor David. He loves people, and he's very frustrated to find out coming into ministry that you have to know all this stuff about marketing, because he really just wants to help people and have a relationship and do pastoring and not worry about all this marketing stuff. So he wants marketers. So we know who this guy is. He wants marketers that he doesn't have to talk to because he doesn't like us and he doesn't like what we do. And he wants to put us on a subscription plan so that we do the work and he doesn't have to think about it because he really doesn't like it. Cool. That's our audience. And that's generally the audience with churches. Okay. So what happens? We go and we meet them out in these places. We connect, we do the handshake, right? We do the first couple. So that's the relationship that we talked about, right? We're shaking hands. Hey, oh, it's good to meet you guys. Hey, we got a thing over here that you're going to love. We do the first steps of the biblical outreach, right? Which is we know who they are. We go to them and we at least offer to meet a deeply felt need. And we say, hey, if that sounds good to you, come over here and we've got something even better. And that's what Jesus does. And then we go to the convert phase. And on this phase is where we will usually have some kind of a lead magnet, okay? And that would be the ebook, free advertising campaigns. If this is for marketing anyway, churches would be something different. Get your free strategy session where they'll talk with me, and that's a sales call. And so we call them into these things, and that's right. So we've got our call to action, right? Sign up right now, download the app, save your seat would be for churches. We have the lead magnet, the free ebook, whatever that is, free consultation. And then we have landing pages. If we're doing advertising, paid advertising, we run those to very specific pages to increase the likelihood of the conversion and giving us the information. This is all called lead generation marketing. This is where we specialize in, specifically with services, which would be churches, therapists, Christian schools, right? We don't really sell products. We have a limited amount of experience in e-commerce, but we have some. Anyway, moving down further, right? We get their information. We need to build a relationship. We need to nurture that lead and build the trust, go on those dinner dates, right? This was the coffee date. It went well. They saved their seat. They booked their call. Now we're going to really build the relationship. Now we're going to have the call. Like, for example, with you, right? You applied to do this internship and you're like, I don't know, this might be okay. It might not. You did the interview, right? Which was the conversion, right? Schedule, apply and interview. And so we applied and we did the interview and you're like, okay, this seems legit enough. Seems like I can commit to this. There's enough trust. And then what are we doing? Well, my job is to give you enough value that you continue to be in the internship. I want you to have what you need. And so this call is closing, right? We're still closing. I'm closing forever as long as you're in the internship. But what do? We do these calls. Well, the people on the website do a sales call and I build the relationship. I ask them what their needs are. What are the biggest problems with your ministry? What are your goals? Tell me where you're heading. What's working? What hasn't been working? And then I recommend, right, a process to resolve those. And they say, oh, that sounds great. And I say, great. You guys can go do that. I gave you all the information. I gave you the strategy. And they say, I don't want to do it. I don't like marketing. You do it, right? And that's when I say, all right, well, why don't you go ahead and fill out this proposal and we'll sign it and we'll get billing going. We'll do it for you. So that's the full marketing proposal. Within the close is often a call like this. It's a customer relationship management software, like a CRM. That can be HubSpot or Zoho or Salesforce, something like that. You can do phone follow-ups, email follow-ups, text follow-ups, just, whatever it is, video follow-up. So we're building that relationship and then we're calling them to action, which is the sales, right? So this is kind of the sales process here. All right. That is kind of a broader view of the marketing system and all of the kind of specific details that fall within those steps. Questions about any of those? And Destiny, you're welcome to join in if you've got any questions.
That's all good for me. Thanks.
Okay, good. Destiny, good? All right. Destiny's probably heard this so many times. She's sick of it. Okay, so that is the marketing funnel and where things fall. Now, I do want to point something out specific here to you. Sophie, wait a minute. Make sure I got that. Sophie, got it. Awesome. Takes me a while with names. Okay, so Sophie, social media. specifically, I'm excited that you're excited about social media and content creation, because we already are planning on specializing you in that, as long as that's what you're still excited about. Yes.
Yeah, but then when you were talking about social media and how people just jump on the bandwagon and how like I don't know,
You're on the bandwagon. Is that what you're saying?
maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's fine, because it is an area that needs people to specialize in, but they just need to know how it actually works, right? Just because a lot of people are hyped about something, like let's say buying stocks, right? Let's say every single church person, pastor got super excited about buying stocks and they all went and bought Bank of America stocks. Well, that doesn't mean that we don't need church people, right? That would be a bad idea. If everybody bought Bank of America, I would not buy Bank of America. But if, for example, Sophie was like, well, I'm very passionate about stock investing with the church. And again, this is just totally, I'm just giving an unrelated example that of course would never happen, but unrelated example to make the point. Just because Bank of America is a bad buy and church people shouldn't be doing that doesn't mean you can't specialize in actually understanding how these churches could invest in stocks. Because if everybody's buying Bank of America, probably some other stock is a really great buy that they should be buying, and you could tell them and they'd listen. You just have to know which one it is. So the space is large enough, you can get good results, right? Maybe everybody's on Facebook and they should be over on Instagram or Twitter or some other site that nobody's ever heard of, where the results are huge, and I have sites like this that I don't even mention sometimes because they're so valuable. I'm going to keep them to myself for a while, until they get a little more popular, and that is a marketing strategy. But sometimes the least popular ones are the social media sites you want to send people to. Like, for example, what is the I don't even know what this is because I haven't looked into it. But for example, conservatives and Christians generally are frustrated with large social media companies because they're restricting our ability to say things. Like, for example, Google Ads now puts a restriction on religious organizations, specifically Christian. If you are a religious organization, they will not let you use targeting features, which is insane. Like, you may as well just go hang a billboard over the highway and advertise to everybody. That is what they're doing right now. And people are really frustrated with this and they don't want to be on Facebook. Well, all politics aside, whatever anybody thinks about Donald Trump, what is he starting? Some kind of like Truth Social, or I don't know, some kind of social networking site he supposedly started. Well, nobody's there, but the people who are there are presumably very in line with the Christian church, and there's not going to be a lot of marketers there either. Maybe that's a super epic place to go market your church. I don't know. But, I don't even know the name of it. But that could be crazy effective. And the question is, again, what are the results? Maybe we test that. So to that end, with your social media marketing, it's not that it doesn't work. It's that the way in which people try to make it work is not in line with reality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you understand how the reality of social media works and a good strategy, you do great. To that end, let's look at reality. What do we use social media for? Connecting. Okay, so we'll go into specific social media training here for you. We use it for connecting. Social media, right? And this is another false belief of ministry leaders and influencers in general. If I have 1 million people following my Facebook page, I have an audience of 1 million people. That is exactly wrong. If you have 1 million people following your Facebook page, you have an audience of 0 people. And I'll let you write. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm done.
What's that?
I'm ready.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah. If you have an audience of 1 million people on any platform other than your own platform, meaning Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, I don't care what it is, you don't have an audience. The audience on those platforms is the platform's audience. Okay. When I worked in sales, I worked at this large furniture company, and there's this guy that worked there, And he worked there for like 30 years. And all of these companies kept offering him jobs and they were going to offer him way more money to come over to their furniture sales company because he taught me to sell. He was so good. I mean, he sold hundreds of thousands of dollars in furniture a month. The guy was crazy. And I was always like, I asked him one day, I was like, why don't you leave and take some of these job offers? And he goes, I can't. And I was like, why not? And he goes, well, I can't take my clients. And I said, why not? They're your clients. You've been working with them for 20 years. He goes, they're not my clients. They're the company's clients. They paid the advertising. They pay for the showroom. They pay for the furniture. I just work here. And if I contact any of these people after I leave, they will sue me to high heaven. And because I have all these people that come to see me at this furniture store, I will actually lose money taking better offers other places. So he's trapped because he's on a platform selling on somebody else's platform, and it's not his clients, it's the furniture franchise's clients. Same thing with social media. If you're on Facebook, it is not it's not your audience, it is Facebook's audience. And that is a very dangerous place for ministry leaders to be, especially today, with all of the push against Christian values and Christian marriage and, gender identity and all this stuff. You say one thing and they decide they don't like it, you got nothing because it wasn't yours to start with. So that said, marketers know, okay, when social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, they say, hey, you're going to build your business and your reputation and your following over here with us. And you are going to do it by getting likes and subscriptions and tweets and follows and whatever it is that they say. Good marketers know good marketers will call that vanity metrics, right? Vanity, like, look at me, I have a gold chain, it's bigger than yours, it's bling, and it doesn't matter. And the reason why those things don't matter, and again, we're going to tie this back around to how you do social media marketing correctly. So don't think I'm dogging on social media marketing. I just have to be harder on it because the hype train for social media marketing in the church is way overblown. To that end, I lost my train of thought. Oh, right. It's vanity. It's just for show, right? Okay, so you've got, I had a lady we worked with, a princess from Nigeria of a tribe. I don't know, like 10 villages or something. Anyway, but she calls me, she goes, oh my gosh, Brett, I've done it. And I was like, okay, what'd you do? And she's like, I got 2 million likes on my Facebook post. And I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Congratulations. And she goes, what do I do? And I was like, well, did you put a link through to your website and have them come into your website and donate or engage in some way? No, I didn't put a link on it, but I got 2 million likes. All right. So next time you put a post with 2 million likes, make sure, right? Because here's our connect, convert, close. Make sure you have a link that calls them to action to sign up for something on your website, right? So she got 2 million likes on her post. It went uber viral. Who knows what it was about? And nothing happened. And that's what a vanity metric is. It correlates to 0 results. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so would you say the majority of people that are using social media are only ever staying in like the connect phase? So they're getting views or whatever, but they're just
exactly
never getting past that.
That is that if the ministry only has a presence on Facebook or TikTok or whatever they have, they have people stuck in the handshake. We're not moving them anywhere. We're not connecting with them. And here's how you know it's a connect. Okay. So these social media giants will tell you subscribes, follows, likes, tweets. Okay. I would counter and say, okay, YouTube, you want me to get subscribers? Cool. It's fine. Or likes or, whatever it is on my video. Where's the YouTube page with all of YouTube's YouTube subscribers? And they're pushing that so hard because it's so valuable. I'm sure they have one, but is that what they care about? No. They ask every single person for name, email, and phone number when they sign up, right? What about Facebook? When Facebook When you create a Facebook account and Facebook says you need to create a Facebook page and get lots of likes, because that is how you know you're successful. When I create a Facebook account, I never see them pushing the Facebook page and having me like their Facebook page. What they want is they want my name, email, and phone number. You see the game?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So they create a fake reward structure and they control the real reward structure. And so this is why I say, when we understand how reality works, we can align ourselves better with it, because God created an orderly world. And if we understand how it works, we can get better results for our clients. So to that end, is it bad to be on social media? No, it's a great place for traffic generation marketing. It's a great place to advertise, depending on where our audience is. Is it a good place to keep our audience? It's a terrible place to keep our audience, because it's not even our audience. It's social media's audience. They have direct contact with those people. And as soon as they don't like you, you have nothing. And not only that, but what is the desired action that you want your audience to do? If you want them to come to church, there's no plan my visit button on your Facebook page, right? You cannot call them to appropriate action on these platforms because they're not designed for it. So you're stuck, right? Like, for example, on ClickMill, right over here, schedule my free strategy session, boom, calendar. You can't do that on Facebook. You know, you can kind of, like, you could put a link to an external calendar, and then they're going to leave Facebook, and 50% of those people are going to be uncomfortable leaving Facebook because they didn't know they were leaving Facebook. And so they're not even going to look at the calendar. And then your conversion rates are way, way lower. So maybe you can kind of, you know, jimmy rig something, but even then it's not going to be that effective. Okay. So to that end, going back to social media, great place to meet. And the goal is to take as many of those people off of social media and funnel them into a website or into, let's say, an app that is created and owned by the church, where they get all of the data from all of the users, because that is what they own and they can actually control. Okay. So, that is social media. Now, let me think here. One of the other things that ministries really mess up, and I can tell you, we can probably pull up 95% of church websites, and this is what I'm talking about, herd mentality. Once it's normal, everybody does it and nobody thinks about it anymore. It just kind of becomes a part of your normal processing. Well, we have to have that on the website, obviously. But for example, social media, we spend all this money, we have people, social media marketers, the web guy at church who makes these beautiful graphics, and church ministry leaders are really good to all of the, you know, all of the issues that they're not good at marketing. They're very good at making beautiful graphics. And to that end, you know, they pay people to go on the internet and make these beautiful graphics, post them to social media, do all this stuff. And if they send them to the website, right? Because a lot of them just sit on social media and they're stuck. Their audience is stuck in the Connect, so they're not their audience. But if they actually send them to the website and they say, hey, come view our online sermon series, come do this, what's the first thing on their website? Check us out on Twitter, check us out on Instagram, check us out on YouTube, right? And they immediately kick people off of their website back to social media. Do you see how that is a huge burden to the marketing process? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we do all this work up here to go and get a conversion, right? Get their contact information, but we actually undercut our own efforts and we just send them back to social media. So this is like Jesus going to Peter, James, and John on the boat and saying, hey, oh, you love those fish? Come and follow me over here. And then they walk like 15 steps down the road and he's like, all right, now go back to the boats. Psych, you know? And Jesus has no disciples. He just sent them back to work. So, and that's what will happen. As soon as they go back to social media, they're going to get lost back in whatever they're looking at, you know, that picture of their grandma eating asparagus with her cat. And now they're never going to think about you again, right? So we lost it. So that is social media strategy. That's part of what I wanted to cover with you for the post you're writing. I would like you to, you know, in that more advanced section, break that apart. Social media is the first part. It's where we connect. It's not where our audience is. You know, it's where we go and we siphon people off into our platform where we actually have real contact information. And then we don't send them back to social media. We call them into something more meaningful, something that's going to meet their needs more effectively, like an ebook or like a plan my visit button or an app where all of your sermons are, something more powerful than throwing them back over to grandma's cat pictures. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is that quite hard to do though? Like, I'm just thinking me personally, like when I'm using social media, which I use like a lot, and just I guess nowadays social media, everyone uses it. Is it not quite difficult to get those people off of social media and to actually get them and get them to stay there? Like, I just feel like that would be so difficult.
What I hear you asking is it difficult to get all the people off social media? And what I would tell you is it's an odds game, right? If I post in that pastor's group of 45,000, if I post, let's just say the internship page and say #1 Christian marketing internship, right? How many people do I need to get signed up? All of them or just one? Right? And that's here you are, you know? How'd you say you came into it again?
Um, so I was looking into digital marketing internships, but I was looking at just UK based ones with secular companies, and I thought, why don't I just put Christian digital marketing internship, and then you
Yes.
guys came up.
So yeah, Christian digital marketing is a key, Christian marketing internship is a keyword on the internet that has like 10 searches a month. There's essentially nobody there. But I'm not interested in working with secular marketing majors and teaching them how to make secular clients a bunch of money. It's not on mission with us. It's not on vision. I don't care. I want to teach believers who are passionate about their faith how to do marketing so they can impact the kingdom, right? So there's 10 people a month. I don't need to get all 10. I don't even need to get one a month. We don't have to get any, you know? If we got one a year out of 120, great, don't care. You know what I mean? It's an odds game. And could I make it more effective? I could. And I went and I tried some stuff with that internship program last week, and we got two applications in 48 hours. Way more effective than what I was doing before, right? And we had I pushed it out to 100 people in a specific platform, specific application that links with colleges and Christian colleges, right? And we got 2 out of 100 that applied. And, you know, maybe only one of them, because that's the conversion, right? They applied. Maybe only one signs up. Maybe neither sign up. I don't know. But again, it's an odds game. We're going for 1% increases in efficiency and effectiveness, not 100%. You're not going to get everybody off Facebook. But here's the thing, though. Jesus didn't get everybody to follow him, right? He said, go and give away your possessions to the poor and then come follow me. And that guy's like, no. And Jesus is like, all right, see you later. Come on, guys, let's go. You know, this guy's, he's doing his own thing, and that's fine. The people who follow you are the people who connect with the need you're saying you can meet, right? If they don't follow you, it's because they don't connect with the need, or you're not telling them what need you're meeting. And that's a huge problem with churches. If they don't connect with the need, like, for example, Destiny and I went to the same church for a long time. Still love the church. The church shouts missions at the top of their lungs all the time. We're a missions church. We're a missions church. And to that point, they fund a lot of missions, and that's great. My wife and I love missions, and that's why I initially started going to the church. And this isn't the only one. This was the same thing back in Florida. When I was in Florida, we went to the same denomination, and they're also very missions based. But, you know, we went to this church for 4 years, 3 years, and I never got invited to a missions trip. I never heard about a missions trip. And I told people we wanted to do missions, and it's expensive. We would have, you know, I don't know, sold hot dogs on the side of the road or something to go and do missions. And I was there for years and years, and we never got invited to any mission trips. And we're driving out of our way to go to this church, and I love the church, but it didn't meet the need it claimed to meet, and we're passionate about missions. And so we stopped going there, right? And again, it's not a dig on the church, it's just poor strategy. And if you say you're going to do something and you're going to meet that need, you need to meet that need. So to that end, if a church is saying they're going to meet a need and someone chooses not to follow them, good. That's not their audience. That person does not find it valuable. They need all of the people who are passionate about missions at the missions church and the homeless outreach church, like the Salvation Army, for example. Homelessness is their thing. They're going to do the most good for people who are struggling with poverty and financial issues. Good. All the people who are passionate about that ought to go to that church, because now we're all passionate about the same vision. We can all work together in unity, right? When you have people going for different visions, there's no unity, and that church is going to fall apart. I grew up at a church that split 3 times while I was in high school because they could not get on the same page about what they're trying to do. So to that end, if people don't follow you and you're clearly stating the needs you meet and the vision that you're helping these people get to, which we're going to talk about next. Oh my gosh, what time is it? Then you don't want them there. It's not the right audience. My goodness, it is 8, 9, 10, 11. It's already been 3 hours. Whoa, I thought we were on hour 2. Wow. Okay. Well, we got 15 minutes. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, it does. I think it's like my mindset that needs to shift.
Yeah.
Like,
And that goes right along with, we want to reach everyone. You don't want to reach everyone. I can't talk to everyone. I'm talking to Christian, at least in the internship, Christian people who are passionate enough about their faith that they're looking up how to market churches and ministries from a Christian marketing viewpoint. That is a very small audience, right? There's 10 searches a month for that. And we've had, I don't even know, Destiny, what do we have? Like 10 interns, 15 interns? I don't even know anymore. And we're getting more. Yeah, a bunch. And some of them stick it out. We've had 2 people who have just said, you know, I don't really like marketing, and that's fine. That's not a big deal. But everybody else has stuck it out. And usually they stay way longer than their internship just because they love it. And it's meaningful and purposeful. You don't need a big audience for that. You just need the right audience, right? So we don't need to reach everyone, and we don't need to get everybody off social media. We just need to get the audience that is applicable to us off of social media. All right, now I want to try to fit this in before we're done. Where is that? We got lots of things we can talk about in the future. Here we go. That's not it. Let's go. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There it is. All right. So this is about analytic data. And we can go more into this in the future because this is a deep well. This goes a long way. Okay. However, I want you to recognize that this is still a marketing funnel. Okay. Okay, so this is what we're interested in. Okay, so firstly, this is data. This is the data flow in pretty much any marketing system. You have impressions, which is people who see your stuff, right? They see your listing on Google. They see your post in Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, whatever. You get impressions. They're impressed. Your posting or ad is impressed upon them. Then they either click it or they don't click it. That's clicks. Then you have conversions, which is they sign up for something, usually a conversion. The first one is very low commitment, low trust. And then you have sales, right? So you're closing a sale, you're closing a deal, whatever it is, that's the big one. And that, a deal, a sale, a close here is the result. Water coming out of the faucet, that is what we're interested in, okay? And that is what we orient all of our training to, is getting the result and doing it in a biblical way. We inspect fruit, we get good fruit, and we do it in a way that is in alignment with the Bible. If someone tells me we can, get better results by doing some sneaky black hat SEO stuff that Google doesn't like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to follow the laws of the land, and the laws of the land of Google are don't do sneaky black hat stuff. So I'm not interested in that. So we want to get the result, and we want to do it in a godly, God-honoring way. Okay, so this is what we're interested in. And so we orient all of our strategies to get more water coming out of the faucet. Most people, when they look at analytic data in their advertising accounts or Google Analytics, whatever it is, social media analytics, they start with impressions and say, oh, we need lots and lots of impressions, because that is very similar to likes. We need lots and lots of likes. We need lots of people on our Facebook page. Listen, you can have 1 million people on your Facebook page and get no results. That is very, very loosely correlated to any meaningful result, okay? That is vanity, okay? So what we're really going to do is we're going to start on this end. How many sales do we have? That's the most valuable thing. Then we're going to go backwards, and this is usually where you end up, especially in advertising accounts, because like for example, the website can't track when we get a service, when we get a new Christian school that comes on as a client. We can't track that because that's not processed through the website. That would be very difficult to track. But what I can track is how many people sign up for strategy calls, and I can track how many of those strategy calls typically sign up for our services. So I can kind of project sales based on conversions, okay? So that's a very valuable number. Going back, clicks, valuable. I'm more interested in how many people click than how many people click on us, let's say in Google or on YouTube and come into the website, than how many people just see our stuff out there. That's the least valuable thing, okay? So when we look at data, and I look at, for example, like let's say we talk to a Christian school and they're like, well, our closing rate is 1 in 10. So 10 people who come and do a tour, only one of them will put their kids in school. Well, that's terrible. That should be like 30 minimum, maybe up to 50. Okay. If the parents do a tour, they're super interested and they have money to pay you. So you're botching it somewhere. So how do we increase that sales rate? Well, let's look at your sales process, right? And when we look at the sales process, we find out they don't know what sales is. And this is hilarious. We're working with a Christian school and was doing some consulting with them, and they were asked, what's missing from your plan? We had the marketing and the admissions and the finance and all the stuff, and they're looking at the board with all these sticky notes up there, and they're like, no, I don't think we're missing anything. Trick question. We're good to go. They don't have sales. There's no sales on the board at all. And then I said, we're missing sales. You guys need sales in your process. That's why you're not closing parents. And a lady who's in, the administration of the school goes, I don't understand. Why would we have sales? We're a Christian school, right? And so that is a huge, because again, we have this block in our brain as Christians. Oh, we're Christians. We're not a business. We're a ministry. So therefore sales aren't a part of that. Well, it seems like sales would be a pretty big part, because when you think about, you're talking to mom and you're asking to take her kids away from her every single day for the majority of the day, put ideas in their brains that she's not directly controlling. And on top of that, you're going to tell her to give you money to do it. That is an insane notion. And $10,000 to do it. You had better be a really good salesperson, because that sounds like a terrible idea. That is a huge commitment. And so anyway, so sales, coming back to this, in the ministry, well, it's a ministry. We know it's not about money. It's not about, we don't have sales. Yes, we do. So how do we improve that? Well, we need to figure out what the objections mom would say. Oh, is it safe? Are there locks on the doors? They don't have locks on the doors, but this wasn't actually the case. But let's say they don't have locks on the doors. Oh, yes, we have state-of-the-art, security system. If anything happens, everything locks automatically. The kids are safe. The police are on standby. I don't know, whatever. But we have to be able to address all the objections. So we can go through their sales process and increase their close rate, say from 20% to 50%. Okay. Conversions. Okay. So mom comes to the website or to the advertising, and we get 100 moms on the website and only 1%, 1 out of 100 sign up for the tour. Well, that's terrible numbers. We want, say, 5% or 10%. 10% would be crazy. So what can we do on the website to increase that conversion rate? Okay, so what this allows, and so for example, on our website, we've got banging orange buttons. There's no question as to what you do, because the only thing your eye is drawn to are those big orange buttons. What do I do? Schedule my free strategy session. Interesting. Schedule my free strategy session. So this increases the conversion rate on the website. And so that gets more people booking for Christian schools these tours. Okay, so that's not it. So with that, we want to increase conversion rate. So if this number is low, our conversion rate, right, the number of people who clicked but do not convert, right? Let's say we've got, like I said, 1 in 100. We want to be at least 3 for conversion rate on a Christian school website, 2 to 3. Well, we're half of where we need to be. Why isn't that water converting and flowing from this box to this box through this pipe? We got to plug in that pipe. Something is wrong. We got some hair crammed in there and we need to get it out. So how do we tweak that? Okay. And then lastly, the least important is the one furthest from the result. And that is the click-through rate. And that is the number of people who see us on social media, see a post, see a listing in Google, see a video like in the, whatever, see a video on YouTube, and then click into our website following a link. And let's say that is whatever this is. And maybe we want to optimize this. And this is why I'm telling you this. There's an order to this. And what we can do, and what a lot of ministry leaders think, is the system doesn't work, the website doesn't work, and they'll talk to me and they'll say, we need a new website. And I'll say, why do you need a new website? Well, it doesn't work. Well, what part doesn't work? Well, I don't know. The website doesn't work. Well, what's it supposed to do, right? What's the result it's supposed to accomplish? Well, I don't know. Like, they don't know. They don't realize there are different components within the website. And so they just want a new one. Well, this is like their fourth website. They just keep having people build new websites and none of them work. Hey, can I call you back in 5 minutes? All right, bye. And none of them work, but they just keep replacing the whole system, right? And this is, again, all or nothing thinking, black and white thinking, perfectionist thinking. It has to work the first time or something's terribly wrong because we can't fail. What this is this is breaking down the system into individual steps and saying which step is the least effective and why don't we try to increase that step by 1%. And this is how very effective systems are created, because instead of just throwing away all the good and all the bad, we're just optimizing the bad and bringing it up. So let's, for example, let's say they have a 20% close rate, a 3% click-through rate, a conversion rate, and a 10%, let's not even say that, let's say a 1%, make it more dramatic, 1% conversion rate, right? Parents signing up for, name, email, phone number for a tour on the Christian school site, and a 10% click-through rate. This is great. 3% is a good average for click-through and conversion. So 10% of the people seeing their ads and seeing them on Facebook and YouTube and Google, 10% are clicking into the website. That is crazy good. That's awesome. Now, let's say they have 10,000 people that click through at a 10% rate. They have 1,000 people on their website every month, and they have a 1%. I know it says 5 down here. They have a 1% conversion rate. That's not that good. So they're only going to have 10 conversions, 10 tours a month. Okay, so 10 tours a month that close at 20%, they're going to get 2 new students a month. And that might not be good enough because maybe they need 200 students and they don't have 20 months a year to sell. That's what that would be. So they need more students every month to book out their school. Okay. So what do we work on? Well, this is great. The likelihood that we improve this is low. The likelihood that we break it is pretty high because this is so good that the more fine-tuned the system gets when you change it, the more likely you are to break it. So to that end, we're probably not going to go after that first, but this super low. So instead of just throwing out the whole system and making a whole new website, which just takes tons of resources and it's not going to work either, we're just going to focus in on conversion rate and say, what are we offering to parents? Oh, we're not offering a tour. We don't have a conversion, right? We're saying call today. Maybe the conversion is call. We're not tracking it, and that's all we're offering. Well, okay, let's focus in on that. We need a tour. We need a tour booking tool on the website yesterday, and we need a parent handbook. So it's download your parent guide or your, brochure, call today, a little bit bigger, right? That's the, what is it? Download your brochure is asking for the phone number. Call today is the first time call, right? Oh, hey, I'd love to go out and get coffee. And then come and do the tour is more like a dinner date. Okay, so we're putting those in order so that we can build a relationship. And then your conversion rate is going to go from 1% to 3% or 2% or 5%. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say 5%, maybe we work on that for a while. That's pretty good. Why don't we go over here and look at this? Because for a Christian school, 20% is kind of low. I'd want to see that at least at 30% close rate, if not higher. And so what do your sales processes look like? And so we just keep looking at the numbers for each section and saying, which one's the lowest one and how do we make it more efficient? Okay. And this is a marketing funnel. When we look at our marketing funnel, this is the impressions up here. And then the impressions go to the clicks into the website, the conversion rate, and then the sales rate is down here. Right? So we can either dump more people in, which is the goal when you get a very effective system, increasing it 1% at a time, right? So lots of failure to find the one little things that work. And once you have a system that is so finely tuned, for example, one of our Christian school clients, they make like a $50 for every $1 we spend in advertising. Just spend a bunch of money. That's when you just scale to the moon and you spend all the advertising money and you bring in a ton of leads. And so to that end, in the next call, we'll talk about strategy. In this call, I wanted to show you how we can kind of break down and target optimizations at different points in the system to increase the results. Okay, so we can dump more people in or we can increase the results. Okay. Any thoughts or questions on that, Sophie? And I know it's late.
Yeah, it was a lot of information, like that last bit.
Totally fine.
It's good. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we're going to put this on YouTube. We'll upload it and you're welcome to watch it again. We'll go over it again. Josh, this is Sophie. Sophie is a new intern with us. And so we just got out of a training call. Josh is very excited about content creation, but is also learning some Google ads and some web design, landing page design, number of different things. So anyway, Sophie, we will call it here. Destiny, do you want to run her through anything she needs?
Yeah, could you stop recording just so that we could?
Yes. And Josh, we'll start in say 5 minutes. When she's done, I actually have to make a quick phone call as well.
Oh wait, Brett.
Yes.